This is ABC Sports.
It's prime time in Dallas, and this city is ready for Monday Night Football. Lately, the Dallas Cowboys have been making news on the field. 2 weeks ago, the Cowboys clobbered the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Dallas headliners were in full force with Troy Aikman throwing 4 touchdown passes, 2 of them to Michael Irvin, as the Cowboys made front-page news with a huge win in their season opener.
Cowboys lose, read all about it.
And a Cowboys loss is a headline event. Last week in Phoenix, this field goal in overtime defeated Dallas and rocked the football world. The Cowboys have won 5 Super Bowls, and they are still America's most intriguing team. Dallas continues to be the team everyone in the league wants to beat.
Dallas is a great place to play, but it is a tough place to play as well. The expectations are awfully high. There's tremendous pressure that comes with that, but we accept it. I hope the scrutiny continues. I hope it intensifies, because then that means that we're doing something very well on the field.
Tomorrow's headlines in the city of Dallas will be made tonight when the Philadelphia Eagles face the Dallas Cowboys on ABC's Monday Night Football. Texas on a warm, humid evening, temperature around 95 degrees, and a few miles to the west, Texas Stadium. Nevertheless, it's going to be sold out tonight because Philadelphia is in town to take on the Dallas Cowboys. Hello again, everyone. Frank Gifford, Al Michaels, and Dan Dierdorf. We've been looking forward to this one, a key NFC East matchup, even this early in the season. 2 bitter, long-time rivals, and both of them are coming into this game 1-1. And fans of the Dallas Cowboys have to be wondering which team is going to show up, the one that lost to Arizona last week or the one that clobbered the Pittsburgh Steelers 37-7 in the season opener. The same could be true for Philadelphia fans and head coach Ray Rhodes. Will it be the team that he had to chew out after the Giants' ugly loss? They had the first game of the season, or will it be the team, Al, that showed up the Green Bay Packers? The Super Bowl champions beat them last week.
Frank, you're right. He's volatile, he's emotional, and he really chewed this team apart after that Giant loss, the disaster on opening day, a day in which he started with Ty Detmer at quarterback and finished with Rodney Peete. Went back to Detmer last week against Green Bay. He engineered a great 80-yard drive at the end to cement a 10-9 victory, and that's the type of game that the Philadelphia Eagles will have to play to beat the very good teams. Low scoring, grind it out. And thus I think the key tonight is Ricky Waters and a big night on the ground. If Ricky Waters can control the football for Philadelphia, carry the ball, let's say 22 to 25 times, gain 120 yards, they have a decent chance to win tonight's game. He has to come up big, or else against the Dallas Cowboys, Dan, a team that has a lot of guys who come up big very often.
Week in and week out, Al, doesn't it seem to be? And Troy Aikman at quarterback has not thrown an interception yet through the first couple of weeks. Michael Irvin a little discouraged that he got shut down last week, only 4 receptions for 18 yards. He wants to have a breakout performance here tonight. Emmitt Smith yet to get his first rushing touchdown. An area of concern, though, for Dallas. It's the linebacker position. Fred Strickland, their normal starter, is sitting this game out with an injury. Vincent Smith is in the middle. He has never played middle linebacker in his 10 years in the NFL, and he's got a rookie on one side, a second-year player on the other. An area of concern for the Dallas Cowboys. If you're a Deion Sanders fan, you're going to see plenty of him tonight. He's at his normal right cornerback position. He is going to play wide receiver on offense, and he will be the punt returner for the Dallas Cowboys, where he's averaging almost 20 yards every punt return. We'll be back with the kickoff when we return to Texas Stadium. Stay tuned. Monday Night Football is next.
Stadium, it's a sultry 97 degrees. I'm with the head coach, Barry Switzer. I'm Lynn Swan. Barry, third game of the season, you were quoted saying this is a must-win. What makes this game so important?
Well, I said coming out of training camp, for us to be the team we want to be, we've got to win the month of September. We were 1-3 last year. We need to reverse that, and we need to be 3-1. That might give us home field advantage in playoffs. That's our goal. That's why I said it's a must-win tonight.
Coach, thank you. Good luck to you. Al?
All right, thank you, Lynn. So Barry Switzer already looking ahead to January and trying to avoid the start last year that put them in a hole and forced them to play a playoff game at Carolina, which they lost.
He's not looking forward to the playoffs. He's looking for home field advantage. That is far thinking.
But it's the way I'd think if I was a head coach of this football team. They had to go on the road at the latter stages of the playoffs last year. Remember, they had to go to Carolina, got beat there. Barry doesn't want a repeat of that.
Derek Witherspoon drops back deep for Philadelphia. And Toby Goen, who is the new Dallas punter and kickoff man, to put it in the air. And Goen's kick taken at the 3 by Witherspoon behind a phalanx of blockers, but breaking it up and making the tackle inside the 20-yard line was Kevin Mathis. And Joe Avizano, the special teams coach, loves that. Great play by Mathis. Busted through the wedge, and Ty Detmer comes in to guide the Eagles. Detmer, the Heisman Trophy winner at Brigham Young, 4 years on the bench in Green Bay, and then to Philadelphia. Now the starter, Waters and Turner in the backfield. The veteran Fryer and Michael Timpson outside. Jason Dunn, the tight end. Up front, Mayberry, Panos, Everett, Beckles, and Brooks. Mayberry, their #1 draft choice last year. Everett, a much sought-after free agent, came over from the Ravens. From the 19-yard line, the short drop, and the pass is caught, and that's a 6-yard pickup as Chad Lewis, a rookie tight end from Brigham Young, makes the reception. The Dallas defense, Dan talked about Strickland out and Smith in. Up front, Tolbert, Casillas, Hennings, and Carver. And then you've got Randall Godfrey with Vincent Smith moving inside from outside, and the rookie Dexter Coakley from Appalachian State. Smith and Sanders, the great corners. Marion and Woodson, the great safeties. Terrific secondary. Second down, 3 from the 26. The blitz is on. Detmer gets it away, and the pass incomplete, intended for Michael Timpson. He got it off in time, but Kevin Smith was covering on the play, and it's 3rd down and 3.
And I think we saw what we can look for all night long. Both these teams, it really isn't within their character to do a lot of blitzing, but both of them had to go to it. The Philadelphia Eagles did against Green Bay last week, and Dallas did it against Arizona. And they're doing it because neither one of them has a very solid pass rush. They've lost some key players over the last few years, and they need to blitz to get any kind of a pass rush, and they know it.
3rd down and 3. Kevin Turner is the sole setback, and he stays in the block and gets off a nice block, and the pass is high at the 40-yard line, intended for Irving Fryer.
Oh, and that was a big gainer. Had Detmer not been a little stoked up, it looked like, as we see so many quarterbacks in the opening moments of games, just had too much on it. That could have been a big gain or even a touchdown. And good pickup of the blitz by Philadelphia.
Well, that's what you hate to waste, Frank. You hate to waste the good pass blocking. You gave Detmer a great look of the field. Normally, when you see a blitz pickup like that, a quarterback that long to survey the field, you see a completion.
Tom Hutton's a punt, and that's Deion Sanders, top of your screen, standing at his own 25-yard line. Whoa. Good angled kick. Sanders from the 23. And can only work the short side of the field, and thus can take it only back to the 30-yard line. 7-yard run back. Tackled there by Ray Farmer, and here comes Troy Aikman. Spectacular day against Pittsburgh on opening day, and then last week the loss in Arizona. 9th year in the league, the #1 pick in the '89 draft out of UCLA. Emmitt Smith and Darrell Johnston in the backfield. Anthony Miller will start tonight with Michael Irvin, the other wideout. Eric Bjornsson, the tight end. Tuanay, Newton, Shiver, Allen, and Williams up front. Great offensive line, and they outweigh Philadelphia's defensive line by more than 40 pounds per man. From the 30-yard line. 1st down against the 9-man Philadelphia front. Emmitt Smith through the middle up to the 34-yard line. As you look at Ray Rhodes and his defensive unit now. Up front, Jefferson, Thomas, Hall, and Mamula. Then the linebackers. Darren Smith is the ex-Cowboy. James Willis had a big interception in this game last year, and William Thomas, the Pro Bowler. Vincent and Taylor at the corners. Zordich and Dawkins, the safeties. And the Taylor against Michael Irvin matchup will be one of the more fascinating ones tonight. Herschel Walker in the game. And split left for Dallas. 2nd down and 6 from the 34-yard line, and they keep it on the ground, and Emmitt Smith gets bunched up as he probes the left side. Stopped there by Mike Mamula and Rhett Hall. It'll be 3rd down and 5.
Nice play there by Mike Mamula, who's really an undersized defensive end at only 252 pounds, going against huge Mark Tuanay, and he stood him up, got underneath, and made the tackle right at the line of scrimmage. This guy's predominantly a pass rusher, and anytime you get that kind of a stellar run defense out of Mamula, you're ahead of the game. There he is at the bottom of the screen. Look at that good leverage. Gets underneath Tuanay, casts him aside, and gets in there and gets in on the play.
3rd down and 5 from the 35. Dallas's opening possession. Aikman, and bumped out of bounds, and drawing the flag was Michael Irvin. Troy Vincent was locked up with him that time, and Vincent forced him out of bounds, precipitating the penalty.
Forced him out. He hit him after the 5-yard area where he's allowed to hit him. But the blitz by Philadelphia on the first passing situation, we're going to see a lot of it tonight. And Irvin and Aikman reading it and getting the flag. It locked up one-on-one. It's Troy Vincent, Michael Irvin, and there is the shove that draws the flag.
And what Troy Vincent could have been thinking, I have no idea.
I'm beat deep. I'm going to save myself.
He just went ahead, and that was an all-out chuck about 15 yards down the field.
I really think he thought he was beaten.
Now it's Taylor lining up on Irvin at the 47-yard line. 1st down, Dallas. Good protection, pump fake, going deep, and too deep, intended for Anthony Miller, who last week was limited to only a couple of plays because of a hamstring pull. And Aikman and Miller just haven't worked together that much through preseason and the early regular season.
Boy, that's a good thing to do early in the game and just show you've got a man that can go deep. He locked him up at Troy Vincent this time. Vincent gets a little touch on him, I think, right here. If he tries to go by him, no, he doesn't. Aikman just overthrew the ball, and he hit it right on the head, Al. They just have not had a chance to work. He was hurt during training camp. He's been out for a couple of weeks, and he's limping around with a hamstring. They just haven't had the time to work.
2nd and 10 from the 47. Out of the familiar eye, it is Emmitt Smith. They got a piece of him in the backfield. Mike Mamula was there to slow him down and limit his gain to a couple of yards. 3rd and 8.
Well, one of the things you need at cornerback is fabulous confidence. Right now, Troy Vincent has to be a little rattled.
He knows where they're going to go.
He gets a penalty against Michael Irvin, and he knows only because of an overthrow does he not get beat for a touchdown there. Now here's Bobby Taylor and Michael Irvin. This is our marquee matchup tonight. Check this out. This is, yep, 2 guys about the same size. And then the Eagles drafted Bobby Taylor to play Michael Irvin.
Nice to meet your acquaintance. And Aikman gets sacked. The ball is loose.
And there's
Johnston
Bobby Taylor.
Scrambles for it, and Philadelphia has it. Bobby Taylor created the fumble. Troy Aikman goes down, holds his arm. Ray Farmer recovers it, the linebacker.
Aikman did not even see Taylor coming off the corner. We talked earlier about the blitz, and we are seeing it on every passing situation by both teams thus far tonight.
And normally from the right side, you'd think Aikman would be able to see him. A complete surprise with the Taylor hit. Pass rush all from the right side of the Dallas offense. Nobody even comes from the left. Troy's looking to the left. Of course, sees no pass rush whatsoever and gets blindsided from the front side by Bobby Taylor. Really a big chance by Emmitt Thomas and Eagle defense, Frank.
Great creative work by Emmitt Thomas, the defensive coordinator.
And now Ricky Waters, the first carry of the night, and Waters has a 1st down to the 30-yard line, faking the end around, faking the sweep. Irving Fryer moving through the backfield, and then Waters takes it over left guard, and a big gain, a 15-yard pickup for Ricky.
Boy, and this is what they like to see. Ricky Waters getting off to a good start. Good, strong offensive line. They haven't played that much together, Dan, but they're good.
And this is not the Dallas defense of old in the front 7. We talked about the linebacker position. Front 4 is having problems of their own as well.
Waters can barely get out of the backfield as he probes the left side. Shante Carver breaks the play up. It'll be 2nd down and 10.
Yeah, we talked about how small Philadelphia was defensively in the front 4. Well, Dallas they're not all that big, and they're 2 corner linebackers, Coakley and Godfrey. They go about 235, with Coakley going about 215.
This is a speed defense. They've got speed to burn, but they've not played together very long. They're a ways away from gelling.
2nd and 9. Fryer in motion from the 29. A deep drop by Detmer. The protection is good. The pass is knocked down by Brock Marion.
Oh, did he time that out beautifully? That could have got a flag just a fraction of a second earlier, and it would have been a flag.
He is the least heralded of that secondary, but he's great. I mean, Woodson goes to the Pro Bowl almost every year. You've got Kevin Smith, who's a great cornerback, and then there's Dion, who speaks for himself. And then you've got Brock Marion, who sort of gets lost in the mix.
Boy, Marion coming right over the top and very risky, but a great deflection by Marion.
3rd and 9 from the 29. No score. 4.5 minutes into the game. And Detmer gets sacked at the 33-yard line. Shante Carver, 2 big defensive plays by Carver, and the Eagles will have to settle for a 50-yard field goal attempt.
And Carver now coming into that #1 draft choice status that he had in 1994. A lot of people wondering, why is it taking so long for him to evolve into a quality player? He's working on the left side. He beats Mayberry to the inside. He goes right through Ricky Waters and smothers Detmer. He beats 2 guys to get that sack.
It's that speed you were talking about, too, Dan. He's only about 250, 55, but he is very, very quick. And Bonio's best, Al, is Gonzalez.
They're not going to get this off.
The booing is for Bonio, and they announced that Bonio will try the field goal. They consider him, of course, a traitor because he was a free agent. Dallas doesn't like to pay its kickers very much. Philly says, come on over, and he did. Timeout. No score. 9:45 left in the first. The Goodyear Blimp Spirit of Akron hovering high above Texas Stadium. The famed hole in the roof. Capacity crowd. It's the Cowboys home opener, and after the Philadelphia timeout, here's Bonio for what would be officially a 49-yard field goal, spotted just inside the 40. Tommy Hutton puts it down, and the ex-Cowboys kick is long enough, and it is good. So Chris Bonio, who won so many games for the Cowboys over the past 3 years, opts to sign as a free agent, and there is the new Dallas kicker, Richie Cunningham, awaiting his chance. But for the moment, it's Bonio and Philadelphia leading Dallas 3-0. Eagles in the past couple of seasons is their kickoff coverage unit. As you can see, in 1995 and in 96 and again this year, ranked last in terms of the drive start for the opponent. That's another reason they went out and they got Chris Bonio, not only to kick field goals but to kick off, and this is a good kickoff, taken at the 1-yard line by Herschel Walker. And the one-time Heisman winner out past the 30. And there it is in spades. This has killed Philadelphia since 1995. And Joe Wessel is the new special teams coach, and he can only shake his head. Monday Night Football is being brought to you by Bud Light. If you want great taste that won't fill you up and never lets you down, make it a Bud Light. Prudential, bringing strength and stability to America's families through insurance, healthcare, real estate, and financial services. Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? And new Ruffles the Works. Now that's a potato chip. 42-yard return for Herschel Walker, and Dallas starts at its own 43. 3-0 Philly. 9:26 left in the opening period. Aikman with that familiar deep drop off the play fake and then throws into traffic. A badly set up screen intended for Emmitt Smith.
Well, that was a nice job by Rhett Hall, a defensive tackle who was shadowing Emmitt Smith. When you come with different blitz packages, different people along that front are responsible for the short screens. That time it fell to Rhett Hall, a defensive tackle who floated out there. He killed that thing.
And you can see the name Dent, number 95. You bet, if you haven't been reading the papers, that is Richard Dent.
He'll be 37 years old this coming December.
And this is Emmitt Smith taking it up to the 47-yard line, and where he's tackled by William Thomas. Thomas, Pro Bowl linebacker. Emmitt Smith, Pro Bowl running back. Emmitt, a 4-time rushing champion. Last year, injured a lot. Ankle bothered him, had off-season surgery, but had a big night last week against the Arizona Cardinals before bruising his ribs.
And Al, he hasn't been to the end zone in a while.
No, he hasn't.
He's had 201 yards in the first 2 games. Had to step out of the Arizona game, though, because of a bruised rib.
Hasn't scored a touchdown in the 2 games this year or the last 2 games last year. Longest drought of his career. 3rd and 6. Here they come again. Dawkins on the blitz, and the pass is broken up as Aikman winds up on his back. The pass intended for Anthony Miller. And good coverage on the play downfield despite the blitz.
Boy, it is so risky to do what the Eagles are doing. They, on every passing situation, are coming. They're really creative kinds of blitzes, too. I mean, they're coming from the corner. They're coming from the middle. They're dropping linemen off into coverage. Sooner or later, it's going to get picked up, and a man is going to come free.
You almost get the feeling Buddy Ryan is back.
But look how effective they were doing it last week and pressuring Brett Favre. Favre was out of sync the entire football game, and let's face it, so far this game, so's Troy Aikman.
Toby Goen, the rookie punter from North Texas, floats one to the 15 where it's fair caught by Mark Say. Eagles take over at that spot. 8:25 left in the opening period. Philadelphia 3, Dallas nothing.
Game told me, hey, while you were talking about that class of '83, I'm in that group as well. Mark Tuinei, Bill Bates, two 15-year players here with the Dallas Cowboys.
Told me everyone is getting him a little hot because they keep calling him sir.
15 years as teammates, Tuinei and Bates.
Now Philly from the 16-yard line. This drive commences with a Ricky Waters ramble over left guard up to the 20-yard line for a gain of 4. Ty Detmer won the Heisman Trophy as a junior at Brigham Young in 1990. Did not win it as a senior, and then was drafted in the 9th round by the Green Bay Packers in 1992.
They don't even draft that many anymore.
That's right. 9th round is history, and there's Rodney Peete, who was the starter a year ago, but was hurt in that Monday night game, knee surgery, and that gave Detmer the opportunity to start. 2nd and 6, and this play is over before it even begins because of a whistle from our referee tonight, the golf pro Ron Blum.
Well, we had a Cowboy flinch, and then one of the Eagles false started. Looked like the tight end on the far side.
False start, 87 offense, 5 yards with each 2nd down.
That's where Jason Dunn, the tight end, bit when one of the Cowboys gave him that little move like he was going to come across the line of scrimmage. It's legal to do that defensively as long as you don't come across the line of scrimmage.
Makes it 2nd down and 11 from the 15-yard line. And Ricky Waters gets back to the 20. Tony Casillas is there to make the stop. Speaking of that 92 draft, it was pretty fascinating when you think about it. Take a look at on the left-hand part of the page, the first 8 quarterbacks chosen. And then on the right side are the late-round guys, 6th and beyond. Blake, Graham, Johnson, and Detmer are all starters. Blake in Cincinnati, Graham with the Arizona Cardinals. Ty Detmer right here, taking his team to the line on the 3rd down and 6. Stepping up as he feels the pressure and then throwing, and it is not caught at the 31-yard line. Irving Fryer, the intended receiver, and Darren Woodson covering on the play. 4th down.
Boy, the blitzing continues, Dan, on every passing situation. Both teams thus far have blitzed.
But you see why this Cowboys secondary is so good, because again the Eagles picked up the blitz. They gave Detmer all kind of time to find receivers open somewhere, and there weren't any. Outstanding coverage by Dallas.
They got 2 great corners, Deion Sanders and Kevin Smith, both terrific covermen.
And here's a punt returner that's averaging what, almost 19 yards a return.
Deion Sanders. Tom Hutton, the left-footed kicker. Deion calls for the fair catch and pulls it in at the 38-yard line, then got hit, and that draws the flag. Deion helping Ray Farmer up and says, "Thank you very much."
Well, sometimes you can just be a little too fired up on these special teams, and I'm sure that was the case with Farmer.
He kind of came sliding right through there. Watch Farmer come in here. Not there. He's still to come.
Not like it was going to be terribly damaging.
No,
but you can't do it.
No, you can't do it. He's entitled to protection when he makes that fair catch signal.
This big one, too.
It's once again the Cowboys get outstanding field position, this time in Philadelphia territory.
At the Philly 47, 6:45 left in the quarter. Action this Saturday at 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific. headlined by Nebraska against Washington. That's a great one. The Huskers and the Huskies. Arizona takes on Ohio State. Florida State, Clemson. Iowa against Iowa State. Other regional action. College football this Saturday. And next Monday, that's going to be some scene. We go to Jacksonville. It's the first time the Jaguars have been on Monday Night Football in Jacksonville. They'll host the Pittsburgh Steelers. Really looking forward to that one.
And don't forget Saturday after that, Michigan, Notre Dame.
Yes, sir. In Ann Arbor.
Just in case you were likely to forget.
We'll keep an eye on it. Here's Aikman looking for his first completion. And he gets it.
Oh,
a toe dance by Michael Irvin to haul it in at the 35.
Bobby Taylor right there, but a great pass. No way Taylor could make the play on that ball. Boy, what a team. Aikman and Irvin.
And that's what a 6'2 receiver brings to the dance when he can go up for a ball like that.
And then he dances on the sidelines for you.
Really the only spot the ball could be. Taylor's there.
See him use those hands, though. He is a very physical receiver in every aspect.
Now they go back to Emmitt Smith. Gets into some traffic, but still picks up 5, taking it to the 30-yard line where he's stopped by Hollis Thomas.
And he followed Larry Allen up through the hole. Boy, it must be fun to follow 330 pounds up through the hole when it can run like Larry Allen.
Say when he can outrun you.
This is a guy that he brings a cement mixer to the party when he shows up. Probably the best offensive lineman in football right now, Larry Allen, the right guard of the Cowboys.
On 2nd and 5, Emmitt Smith again, and he is thwarted at the line of scrimmage. That's Hollis Thomas again making the initial contact. Thomas in his second year out of Northern Illinois.
And Thomas a lot of the time is getting to work against Larry Allen, and he's one of the guys that personally been challenged by Ray Rhodes.
Without a huddle now on 3rd down and 3. Anthony Miller had it and dropped it. It's incomplete. So they go to Miller. They try to catch Philadelphia napping without a huddle on 3rd down and 3. And Troy Vincent wasn't napping.
2 good corners. Troy Vincent had so many great years with the Dolphins. And Bobby Taylor on the other side. You can do a lot of things with the blitz if you have good corner play, because they're going to be man for man in blitz situations, and the Eagles have 2 really fine ones.
I don't think Anthony Miller was going to catch that ball even if he wasn't hit. It went right through his hands.
Now a 46-yard field goal attempt by the new kicker Richie Cunningham. And Cunningham, replacing Chris Boniol, boots it through. Joe Avisano applauding Richie's 9th successful attempt in 10 tries, and that ties it with 5:15 to go in the first. 3-3. Texas, and look due east to downtown Dallas. Big D on a sparkling warm night. Michael Irvin made a nice catch to help set up the field goal. Troy Aikman looking on as his team ties at 3-3 with 5:15 to go in the first.
But field goals have become almost a dirty phrase to the Dallas Cowboys offensively. They are very frustrated that too many of their drives end up without scoring touchdowns. And last year was Chris Boniol, this year Richie Cunningham, but too many field goals. These guys want to visit the end zone with a little more regularity.
Toby Goen puts it in the air. And Derek Witherspoon takes it from the 4-yard line, and a good special teams play made by Charlie Williams. Right there to tackle him inside the 20-yard line. Now some NFL news brought to you by Budweiser. Rick Meyer gets the start for the Bears in New England next Sunday. Chicago off to an 0-3 beginning after yesterday's loss to Detroit. Ike Hilliard, the Giants love this kid, the wide receiver, but he'll undergo spine surgery. Expected to keep him out for the season. Suffered a neck injury a couple of weeks ago. And Warren Moon yesterday scored a touchdown for Seattle at the age of 40. He became the oldest player in NFL history to score a touchdown. The previous eldest was Zeke Bratkowski from the 17
yard line. A screen to the backside, and Ricky Waters makes the catch, but Antonio Anderson, a good-looking rookie from Syracuse, right there to trail him and stop him, and there's the defensive coordinator, Dave Campo.
Boy, and I'll tell you, with Leon led out until the 14th game of the season for substance abuse, Antonio Anderson could develop, Dan, into what they need. A big man on that line, a run stopper, and you see right here, he has great quickness.
For a guy that size, stop and think what you're looking at. A guy at 320 pounds floating down the line of scrimmage and lassoing Ricky Waters.
Second down, 10. Detmer guns it, tipped, and Fryer can't make the catch, and then it was nearly picked off by Kevin Smith. Incomplete.
Boy, we are seeing some receiver-cornerback matchups here so far in this game that are turning into big-time tussles.
It really is beautiful to watch, too. They're so athletic, both the receivers in this game, particularly Irving Fryer and Kevin Smith. Remember, at 95, he was injured in our opening game, guys, who tore his Achilles tendon out the entire season, came back as a starter last year, and he's back 100%. Well, he came back 100% last year, remarkably.
Third down and 10 from the 17. Here come the Cowboys. Blitz is on. He gets buried by Broderick Thomas.
Well, Emmett Thomas and Dave Campo have just gone wild. They are calling blitz after blitz after blitz.
Boy, it's creative stuff too, Dan. They're dropping defensive linemen off into coverage. They're gambling. They're going to get to the quarterback before a receiver can uncover and throw off the timing, cause disruption in the backfield, and that's what's happened thus far tonight on both sides of the line.
Tom Hutton to boot it. Deion Sanders to return it. Low liner, short kick, fair catch called for and made by Sanders. A 38-yard punt. Deion has it at the 49-yard line with 3:45 to play in the opening quarter. You can feel the electricity, the tension. As we talked about the defensive coordinators gambling tonight. It's almost reflective of this rivalry, which has really become, I mean, Philadelphia-Dallas has always been a good one, but I think it's one of the best in the league right now.
It certainly is, and that's because Philadelphia has proven that they can beat Dallas. That's what makes a good rivalry, when you actually fear that the team coming in here is going to beat you. Philadelphia won here last year. They've split the last 4 games.
And excuse me, Dan, you do that kind of blitzing, you're going to get a big play. If they keep this up during the course of the night, we're going to have some big plays.
Yep, 1 of 5, you see Aikman, but I'll tell you what the biggest concern right now for us Philadelphia is Dallas getting this outstanding field position time after time.
Aikman, the fake, and then the pass is incomplete. Again, he and Anthony Miller, because of the lack of work that they've had as a twosome, unable to connect again.
Well, I'll tell you, though, that was overthrown by Aikman. That's unusual. He is such an accurate passer.
Well, the sidebar story there is Vincent beat one more time. Troy Vincent in a trail position there. Not even in the picture.
Troy has not had his best days against the Philadelphia Eagles. Aikman has really struggled. On the other side of the coin, Emmitt Smith has had some fabulous days against Philadelphia. 2nd and 10.
Troy Vincent needs to tighten things up.
They give it to Smith, and he crosses the 50 and gets it to the 49, a minimal gain. Rhett Hall is there. It'll be 3rd and 8. Take a look at Aikman through the years against the Eagles. There it is in the left-hand column. As you can see, his rating well below what it is against others. And touchdown interception rate, 10 TD passes and 15 interceptions against Philadelphia in his career.
Well, you saw Dallas, and we were away for just a second. Dallas was going without a huddle. Philadelphia got caught with the wrong personnel, and they had to call timeout.
Their second. 3:18 left in the first. First 6 were 12 yards, and that was the completion to Michael Irvin on the last drive.
Here they come.
Here comes Philly again. Corner blitz again. Taylor again creates the fumble. It is picked up by the speedy Thomas, and the Eagles score.
Bobby Taylor is having some first quarter here in Texas.
Well, we did say we were going to see some big plays. I thought it might have been offensively. We just saw one defensively.
Bobby Taylor grew up in Houston. He's familiar with football in the Lone Star State, and boy, is he lighting it up.
Aikman hasn't seen him yet. He got it on the other side, here comes Taylor, bottom of your screen this time.
And again, it's the overload blitz. This time, everybody coming from the left side of the Cowboy formation. Nobody from the right. Aikman facing the right, never saw it, and the one hopper right to William Thomas. Emmett Thomas, the defensive coordinator of the Eagles, right now is on a roll.
It's a dangerous one, but he's on one.
And Ernie Zampese, the offensive coordinator of the Cowboys, will have to figure out how to counter it. There's Emmett Thomas, Bobby Taylor, the MVP of the first quarter. Little doubt about that.
Well, you'd think there'd be a hot receiver on the side. Taylor's coming in. There'd be some kind of a communication, but we've seen Aikman not even see the blitz coming twice.
Well, it's a real gamble by the Eagles, because on that one you saw Eric Williams looking back, looking for somebody to block. There's nobody on the right side at all, the right side of the Cowboys formation. This time the blind side, and the hop right to Thomas. Wow, this is an aggressive game plan being executed now by the Eagles. And think of the field position, guys, that the Cowboys have had so far in this football game, and they're losing 10-3. They have had extraordinarily good field position and have done 1 field goal's worth of damage with it.
William Thomas scoring the second touchdown of his career. The other came 2 years ago. The Cowboys, meanwhile, unable to really get anything going. Remember, last week offensively, they played a 68.5-minute game and did not score an offensive touchdown.
We go back to those field goals. We're sick and tired of field goals. A lot of Pro Bowl football players there, Frank, to not get in the end zone.
I think the burden really is falling on Ernie Zampese, offensive coordinator for Dallas right now, to revise something. Maybe it's the 2 outside men, the only men in the pattern. Go with 2 tight ends, whatever it takes.
Philadelphia with the clustered look on the kickoff. Boniol sends it down to the 5-yard line. Herschel Walker brings it back to the 30, and a flag comes in at the end of the play. And there is Ernie on the left.
Working on the old drawing board, but go with the 2 tight end offense for a while until you settle down. Either that or you're going to end up having to get you a new quarterback in there.
Joe Avezzano looking on, trying to figure out who this is going to be called on.
Dallas.
I think he knew it was on them. I think he wants a number.
I think he knows he's on camera.
You say 57, that's Vincent Smith. Even though he's starting at middle linebacker tonight, you need good players playing on special teams as well. And with Strickland out, Vincent's having a big night, both starting at middle linebacker and on special teams.
Bobby Taylor, 1 sack in the first 34 games of his career, 2 tonight, and all 3 have come on Monday Night Football. That first sack came in the game against Green Bay last season. Here's Emmett Smith trying the right side and gets taken down from behind. Troy Vincent is there to bust up the play. 2nd down and about 7.
And Dallas did open that series with the 2 tight end package.
Two and a half to play. Opening quarter. The crowd quiet right now. The Eagles dominant over the last several minutes, leading by 7. Dallas trying to get on track offensively. Eagles nearly jumped. In fact, they did, because there's a flag down, and Emmett Smith crosses the 20 and Francis out of bounds at the 23. Edward Jasper, the defensive tackle, was the man who flinched. Ray Rhodes, as always, the face of intensity.
Don't you get the feeling he could just will his team to play better than they can play?
And he has.
I think he has.
Over the last 2 years.
Offside, no shackle defense, 5 yards, repeat 2nd down.
Offside, it was Edward Jasper. I've always felt, or at least over the past couple of years anyway, this guy's gotten the most from the least of any coach in the league.
You know, he's a kind of a throwback to the old coaches when you could have authority and you could dictate what happens on the field, off the field, and that's what he is. I mean, he'll get right in your face. I understand he's challenged 2 or 3 players this year already, and he's a very physical man, very intense, as you said, Al, but he's getting it done.
2nd down and 2. Emmitt Smith. He had an expletive-laden tirade in his press conference after that Giants game. In fact, I think somebody counted up like 52 expletives in 40 minutes. He got a note from his mother who said, "You've got to stop this." And Ray said, "Mom, you have to understand, I've got to get a message to my team."
And it's a basic message. It's Ray Rhodes. I don't envision him changing anytime soon. The man is reinventing the word intensity and how it applies to a football coach.
1st and 10 from the 27-yard line. Aikman has to dump it off and nobody's home. James Willis decks Troy. So Troy having a miserable 1st quarter. He is now 1 for 7 for 12 yards.
Trying to get to Daryl Johnston. I think Troy might be just a little gun shy back there. He's been hit 3 times. He didn't even see the man coming, and he knew there were a lot of people getting around him right there. He kind of danced out of the pocket, and he had Johnson. Look, he's just moving those feet a little quickly. Well, looking around, there's Johnson.
You couldn't be human, Frank, and be tattooed the way he's been hit twice tonight on the 2 blind sides that have ended up being big plays.
2nd and 10.
Look at that. Emmitt has nowhere to go.
And that's Mike Mamula with a big play.
Not all that big, but we've seen tonight how quick Mamula is.
And he is 4 yards in the Dallas backfield. Mamula all over Emmitt Smith before he even has a chance to turn upfield.
Final minute of the period without a huddle on 3rd down and 12. Aikman guns it out pattern intended for Miller, and that's incomplete. Troy Vincent is there.
Well, he was there too that time. Vincent, fine coverage on the speedy Anthony Miller.
And listen to the crowd boo the Cowboy offense as it comes off the field. And that is akin to a standing ovation for the Dallas defense. I mean, for the Philadelphia defense, rather.
Well, Vincent was all over this. Aikman had no choice.
Pretty soft turn to the sideline. Did not surprise Troy Vincent at all.
Toby Goen, the rookie punter from North Texas. Say at the 37-yard line, and Mark brings it back to the 44. Here comes a flag at the end of the play. Tackle made by Charlie Williams.
Dallas played very well in the first half of their game last week out in Phoenix against the Arizona Cardinals. Stumbled in the second half. But this performance so far early in tonight's game is reminiscent of the way they looked early last year when Michael Irvin was serving a suspension. Well, Troy Vincent staying busy in the scheme of things tonight. But this is as discombobulated as we've seen a Dallas offense in a long time. When you consider the quality of the players that are in that huddle.
Well, Emmitt Smith has 10 carries for 26 yards. That's 2.6, and Aikman is 1 of 8. 1st down from the 31-yard line. Philly out of the eye, and Ricky Waters through the middle. Ricky picks up about 5 to the 35. Jeffrey Lurie, who has owned the Eagles since 1994. Richie Kotite was the coach then. Richie was fired after that season, went to the Jets. And Lurie got Ray Rhodes to come in from San Francisco as the first quarter winds down. A quarter dominated by the Philadelphia defense. End of 1, Philadelphia 10, Dallas 3. And Monday Night Football returns after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Is the Goodyear blimp proving that the moon does shine bright deep in the heart of Texas. Moon over Dallas, full moon from the Goodyear blimp Spirit of Akron providing that shot. as we start the second quarter. Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, Dan Dierdorf, and Lynn Swan. Philly up by 7, and Ricky Waters for a 4-yard gain to the 39-yard line. It'll be 3rd and 2. He's tackled there by the rookie Dexter Coakley.
Philadelphia would really like to go back to a run offense. I feel that strongly. If they can get any kind of a drive going, I think that we'll see a lot more of Waters.
The fella in the T-shirt there in your picture was Fred Strickland, the normal starting middle linebacker. And again, this tremendous aerial shot brought to you by our friends, the Goodyear blimp, high above the Metroplex.
Third of Akron tonight is Detmer on 3rd and 2 throws, and Kevin Turner makes the catch. Kevin Smith makes the stop, but Turner knew exactly where he was, and he only needed 2 yards and picks up 3 and a first down for the Eagles.
And I think John Gruden, the offensive coordinator of the Eagles, settling into something here I think we'll probably start to see more of. In those 3 plays, we saw back-to-back carries by Ricky Waters. I think he'd like to see Ricky become a bigger and bigger part of this game as it moves along. He is their best football player by a long, long ways. He needs to touch the ball a bunch tonight.
From the 42-yard line, a whistle before the snap.
Boy, that was interesting. Woodson came up to the official, ran up, called timeout. Must have been a personnel problem they had matching up.
Timeout Cowboys. Early second quarter. Eagles by 7. Body language and appearance for those guys, but it reflects what they've done offensively tonight. Philadelphia has the ball after the timeout, and Ricky Waters over the right side takes it up to the 43-yard line. Darren Woodson makes the tackle. Monday Night Football is being brought to you by Nissan, who reminds you that life is a journey. Enjoy the ride. Budweiser, what fresh beer tastes like. And Sprint PCS. Sprint Monday nights, they're free and clear.
Well, that time the Cowboys came with an all-out blitz on first down. There's Vincent Smith. Must have to fight the urge to walk to that outside linebacker position and stay in the middle.
2nd and 9. Detmer gets good protection again, and the pass is caught by Michael Timpson, the one-time Patriot, one-time Bear, forced out by Kevin Smith. First down Philadelphia in Dallas territory at the 46.
And Timpson seeing a lot of playing time tonight because the Philadelphia wide receiver Chris T. Jones, who's normally the starter, he's out because of an injury. He had a arthroscopic surgery on the 1st of September, and Ray Rhodes telling us what a luxury it is. There is Chris T. Jones. We see him from behind there. And what a luxury it is to be able to fall back with a veteran like Michael Timpson.
From the 46, Ricky Waters to the 44-yard line. Gain of a couple.
There's Chris. He was just developing him too. Last year he had a great year, 70 receptions. But Chris Timpson, meanwhile, has 62 receptions with Chicago a year ago. Interesting too. Timpson was kind of lured to Philadelphia by his former teammate with New England, Irving Fryer. They're really good friends. Timpson is the godfather to one of Fryer's children, and Fryer kind of talked him into coming to Philadelphia. And they're a pretty good combo.
2nd and 8 from the Dallas 44-yard line.
And Broderick Thomas came across and made contact. He's pointing to Jimmy Johnson, the tight end.
Didn't work.
No, that's a case where Thomas thought that he'd be able to draw the 5-yard penalty. You saw just that little bitty flinch by the tight end. There's another one, and Broderick Thomas thinking that was enough. Well, he did simulate a snap. That is enough. The problem is you take a chance when you run across the line of scrimmage and tapping like that. You're hoping somebody saw it.
Waters on 2nd and 3 finds a hole and takes it to the 30-yard line. He's tackled by Darren Woodson.
I guess I'm saying Thomas forced the issue. If the official saw it, he's going to throw the flag. You're running across and tapping him like that is an unnecessary risk.
Philadelphia with a good drive now, starting at their own 31-yard line. Al mentioned that 9-minute drive they had against Green Bay for their go-ahead touchdown.
From the 30-yard line, a rookie again, big hole, little hurdle move, 7-yard gain, stopped by Brock Marion. That's his 10th carry of the night. Rickie's already gained 53 yards.
You see Steve Everett leveled Bill Bates. He just buried him. The big center for Philadelphia.
Well, Bill, I think, is saying this wasn't part of the job, playing nickel right here, having to come up and take on a 300-pound center. But Bill Bates in that nickel situation, sometimes he plays DB, sometimes he's put in that linebacker position like that one there.
Well, Philadelphia's got something moving here. This is a good drive.
2nd and 3, and it's a grinded out drive, very similar to that drive last week against Green Bay. Detmer throws, caught, marked safe, first down, forced out by the frustrated Marion.
And you could see that obvious audible by Detmer as he moved the offense around. Saw the alignment of the Cowboys defensively and switched into what they worked on all week. Irving Fryer moves to the inside, clears out the area, puts Brock Marion in the difficult task of having to come all the way across. Well done, Philadelphia.
From the 17-yard line, Ricky again behind Turner inside the 15 to the 13-yard line, tackled by Vincent Smith. Meanwhile, Dion not involved in much action, and the reason is they don't give Dion very much action. The opponents normally go the other way. Dallas, meanwhile, defensively last year best in the NFL, preventing a touchdown when the opponents got in the red zone. This year tied for worst in the league, unable to stop the opposition inside the 20. They'll have to do it here, or they're down 17-3, and that's thrown out of the end zone. It'll be 3rd down and 5.
Well, Detmer was trying to finally get the ball to Irving Fryer. He lined up on the left, took it across the middle, and Vincent Smith timed it out beautifully. He knocked Fryer right off his feet. Detmer had to throw it away. They're trying to get the ball to Fryer, but he's either being doubled or hit. There he is right there in the middle. That really could have drawn a flag.
Yeah, I would say so. You only get a 5-yard zone.
12th play of the drive, 3rd down and 5 from the 13-yard line. The fake to Charlie Garner, and then Detmer throws in wide open to make the catch is the rookie Chad Lewis. Chad Lewis, the rookie from Brigham Young, beats Charlie Williams, and the Eagles are up by 2 touchdowns.
Well, Ray Rhodes told us this youngster was going to be a good one. He's a free agent out of BYU. He's huge. He's 6'6", 250 pounds. And came up as a free agent and is rapidly developing into an excellent tight end. There he is, number 89. And a good pass by Detmer.
That time the Cowboys only came with 3 rushers, dropped 8 guys back into coverage, and yet still locked up on the tight end, thinking that he's the least likely guy to figure into the pattern. Guess what?
Silence here in the stadium.
Beads of sweat appearing on Switzer's forehead, and we can understand that. There's a lot to sweat about right now if you're the Dallas Cowboys. 9:31 to the half. Philadelphia 17, Dallas 3. Who would have believed this at this point? 17-3 Philadelphia, and tonight's Home Depot, the Home Depot Chalk Talk. Ray Rhodes, a 7-0 career record in games decided by 3 or fewer points. The NFL record 10 shared by Don Coryell and Bum Phillips. Last week was number 7 as Herschel Walker fields the kickoff. Takes it up to the 22-yard line. And Jensen, this instant gratification, what have you done for me lately world? I mean, 2 weeks ago, the Cowboys killed Pittsburgh. They're the best team in the league. Philadelphia looks awful against the New York Giants. They're one of the worst teams in the league. A fortnight later, look what we have.
In one of the toughest stadiums in the National Football League in which to win. Of course, the Eagles come into this game believing that they can play well in this stadium. You can't measure what winning down here last year did for Ray Rhodes and this Eagle program. They come here with confidence.
And Dallas tries to jumpstart the offense. That's Deion Sanders in motion. They fake the end around to him and give the ball to Emmitt Smith over the left side for a pickup of 4. And with 9:12 to go in the second quarter, Philadelphia on top 17-3.
I think a lot of it right now, Philadelphia, as they did last week, is just playing with an incredible amount of motion. They are gambling, but I mean, it's sophisticated gambling. The blitz that they're coming with, well designed by Emmett Thomas, the defensive coordinator, and I think working hand in hand with Ray Rhodes. His expertise in this game is defense, and that's what he cares the most about. They've done a wonderful job tonight.
2nd and 6. They give it to Smith again. Emmett, little juke move up to the 29-yard line. It'll be 3rd down and 4. He's tackled there by James Willis.
Right now, defensively for Philadelphia, their speed is really starting to show. Look how every time somebody offensively for Dallas has the football, how many Eagles are getting to him and getting to him in a hurry.
This temperature, too, at Arizona, it didn't seem to affect Arizona like it affected Dallas. We have almost the same temperature tonight. In the second half, it really got to the Dallas Cowboys. Philadelphia worked this week under warm conditions, anticipating the kind of heat that they would have down here.
Emmitt Smith, and for the first time tonight, the Dallas Cowboys convert on a 3rd down up to the 37-yard line, tackled by his former teammate, ex-Cowboy, current Eagle Darren Smith.
And that's a sight, and that's a result that the Cowboys ought to stick with for a while. When you're struggling, go to the guys that have produced for you before. And in this case, get the ball to Michael Irvin, get the ball into the hands of Emmitt Smith.
And you're really so much bigger, Dan. I mean, they should be able to take control of this game with that offensive line. They just haven't been able to do it.
From the 37-yard line, Aikman, who is 1 of 8, is now 1 of 9. Tried to get it into Miller. Anthony looks for a flag. Instead, he gets great coverage by Troy Vincent. Simple as that.
Vincent had a couple of opportunities early on where he was well off the receiver, but he is really locked in now. Times it out beautifully.
I mean, he's beside Anthony Miller, like Anthony Miller ahead of time told him he was going to run a little sideline pattern.
Look at that.
1.5 yards per play for the Cowboys offense tonight.
Whoa. 2nd and 10, and here's Emmitt Smith up to the 41-yard line. It'll be 3rd down and 6, and Ernie Zampese with 3 pens in hand trying to find the right keys.
Ernie look a little nervous, a little agitated to you? He has reason to be.
On 3rd and 6, it's a wobbly pass, and Michael Irvin does get the flag. Bobby Taylor impeded him and knows it.
Well, they were scratching and clawing in the outside, and Bobby Taylor kind of laughing. But okay, you got me this time. They've been having a war, these two. There's a little shadow. He's not even looking back at the quarterback, and he's also grabbing Michael Irvin's jersey.
But Michael Irvin was not afraid to use his hands as well, but Bobby knew it. And this is a drive now where the Cowboys move to midfield. They need to get some points out of this. Psychologically, they need some points.
Key drive. It's Deion Sanders in the slot to the right. Ball at the 50-yard line. Aikman under pressure again. Looks for a dump off, and nobody's home. Just got rid of the football. It'll be 2nd down.
James Willis just complaining bitterly that he was tackled by Larry Allen as the Eagles came with a blitz up the middle.
And meanwhile, it was good coverage on Deion Sanders by Troy Vincent. He was the intended receiver, and he got bumped coming off the line of scrimmage, and he never just developed into the receiver.
Out of sync, the words that apply to the Cowboys offense. There's Allen, 73. He goes out, and he kind of corrals a little bit, grabs the arm of Willis. But again, though, Aikman gets a good look downfield.
2nd and 10. Aikman is now 2 of 11 as he completes it to Smith. Emmett looks for room, but can only get to the 47, and James Willis is there to stop the play. 7 yards shy of the 1st down. 3rd down upcoming.
With James Willis, with Willis, Frank, with William Thomas, and with Darren Smith, I don't know if you have a faster set of linebackers in the NFL.
This screen was set up pretty well, and they just collapsed back right into it and just destroyed it. Emmett tried to take it back in the middle, and you see number 50 coming down the line in pursuit.
And William Thomas, number 51, forced Emmett Smith back to the middle of the field, back to James Willis.
Thomas about 220 pounds, and Willis about 235. Not big, but ever so fast.
3rd and 6 from the 47-yard line, and the pass intended for Sanders is knocked away, and a flag is thrown.
They're going to say the ball was batted.
Yep.
If the ball's deflected, this penalty will get picked up.
Darren Smith, 56, I think, is the guy who did get a hand on it.
Again, in good field position, the Cowboys offense sputters.
Deion Sanders is taking a pounding coming off the line of scrimmage, trying to get downfield. He was the one that was bumped right there, but the ball had been deflected.
And now Toby going to kick from the 46 of the Eagles. High floater. Eagles let it bounce. Takes a good bounce for Dallas. And they pin Philadelphia at the 4-yard line. Down by Darrell Johnston to the pleasure of Joe Avizano. 5:45 to the half. The Eagles 17 and the Cowboys 3. The Jaguars and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Jaguars on Monday night for the first time ever. From the 5-yard line, it's Charlie Garner carrying the ball out to the 12. And let's get an update from Lynn Swan. Lynn.
Al, at kickoff, we said it was an uncomfortable 97 degrees, and it remains uncomfortable. You're talking about Ray Rhodes' concern for the heat. Well, he flew in 2 extra guys just to handle the additional fans he brought down to this ball game. All the players, when they're not playing, are on the bench staying cool. And the Cowboys, who were uncomfortable in Arizona last week, only have the 2 large fans at the end of their bench, and it's not a cooling moist, Al.
The Cowboys are uncomfortable in every manner you can think of tonight, including right now as Charlie Garner takes them out of the shadow of the end zone and all the way out to the 35-yard line. It's so weird. I mean, Dallas has a great preseason, a great opening day. Philly has a terrible preseason, a terrible opening day, and look where we are.
And let me tell you, from an offensive player's perspective, what the Eagles have just done, running the football and blowing it out from their own end zone, taking it up now to the 35-yard line, is monstrous.
And bringing Charlie Garner in there, a change of pace, a lot of speed, he's fresh legs coming off the bench. He can change a ball game for you.
This is demoralizing to a defensive unit in 2 plays to be now so far away from where he started.
From the 36-yard line, Charlie Garner, minimal gain there with 4:23 remaining in the first half.
I mean, everybody in this stadium is thinking, hey, we got the Eagles backed up. One little mistake here, and we end up with a turnover. We end up with a point-producing situation. And now they've just jammed it down our throats.
So Ray Rhodes giving Waters a rest. Going to Garner as a change of pace. Starting at the 4, has it out to the 37. Dominating the half. 2nd down and 8. The fake batted in the air and incomplete. Roderick Thomas came charging through.
Once that baby went up in the air, it was a free-for-all between Thomas and Detmer. One trying to catch it, the other trying to make sure he didn't catch it.
Thomas came close to getting to it. Detmer, I think, got his body in between Thomas and the ball. Very clever.
Very, very clever.
Pretty important defensive play here early in the game for Dallas. 3rd down and 8. They come with a blitz. The blitz is picked up. Detmer gets it away. It's caught at the 41-yard line, but stopped well short of the first down is Michael Simpson, and Dallas will get the ball back.
And Aaron Woodson made the play. The strong safety who is so good back there. Good coverage. Comes up with the great run support, and he made the play.
Fourth down from the 42-yard line. Tommy Hutton's 4th punt of the night. Deion Sanders back to receive it.
Now time for a prime-time play from Deion. Really could give the Cowboys a lift.
Short angled kick, and the Cowboys will get fairly good field position. There's a flag down at the 37-yard line.
That
the
kick
Cowboy 37
could have been a whole lot better, Al.
You know, you think so much about kicking it away from Dion, you forget about the mechanics from time to time. Joe Wessel is the special teams coach.
That was pretty much of a shank.
And Ron Blum, a golf pro, would know all about shanks, but it's a face mask call against Dallas.
Which, of course, the question now is post-possession or pre-possession. If it's before the kick, that will give Philadelphia a first down. If it's after the kick, it'll just be an assessment against the Cowboys offensively.
15-yard face mask. The foul was committed prior to the kick.
Yes.
The
Eagles
foul
will.
was enforced from the previous spot. 15 yards.
Eagles keep the ball. Wow.
That was probably on one of the outside men.
It was 4th and 3. Penalties killed the Cowboys last week in the Arizona game. 12 of them for 115 yards. One negated what would have been a touchdown. And tonight, this is really a killer.
Dallas is really digging themselves a hole.
Here goes the 15-yard walk-off. But more importantly, Philadelphia retains possession of the football.
And you're listening to a sound you don't hear very often at Texas Stadium. First down at the 43-yard line for the Eagles. 2:57 to the half. Garner is in the game. Charlie has the ball. Charlie takes it to the 36-yard line, picks up about 7, and Brock Marion makes the tackle. Detmer, apparently having communication problems, had pointed to his helmet as if to say, I can't hear the call.
With a 17-3 lead, this is a back-breaking drive being put together by the Philadelphia Eagles. Without Ricky Watters, you see right there on the Philadelphia sideline.
2nd down and 3. Garner plays bumper cars in the inside. Kevin Turner with a block close to a first down, tackled at the 33 as we'll come down to the 2-minute warning.
Garner's only 5'9", 185 pounds, but he has averaged carrying the ball over 5 yards per carry since he came up as a 2nd-round pick at 94. Very explosive, very quick.
Well, Ty Detmer has come over to the sideline here at the 2-minute warning to try to get his helmet fixed.
2 minutes to the half. Philly by 14. With Frank Gifford, Dan Dierdorf, and Lynn Swann, 2 minutes left in the first half. A half dominated on both sides of the ball by the Philadelphia Eagles, reflected in that pensive look on the face of Emmitt Smith. It's first down Philly at the Dallas 33-yard line. And Charlie Garner giving Ricky Watters a breather and doing a great job in his stead as Ricky looks on, picks up 3, 2nd and 7.
Well, Ricky does not like to take a breather, I can assure you, but he's looking out on the field, and Charlie Garner is chewing up big chunks of yardage.
And the way Charlie is running right now, I don't blame Ray Rhodes and John Gruden for leaving him out there. Go with the hot hand.
And Ray doesn't mind hurting your feelings, I can tell you that.
2nd and 7 at the 30-yard line. Detmer. Protection begins to break down. Good coverage by Dallas.
And smart play by Detmer.
3rd down.
I was so impressed with Detmer's play against Green Bay, and he was hit time and time and time again, and he didn't make the major mistake. He just was pounded over that game by the Green Bay Packers, but he did not make the mistake.
The Eagles rushing the ball for over 6 yards a carry. The Cowboys barely over 3. Very productive, the Eagle running game.
3rd down and 7. 4 wideouts. Keep it on the ground. Give it to Garner. He doesn't get the first down, but he takes it to the 27-yard line, setting up about a 45-yard field goal attempt. The tackle is made by Dexter Coakley, and timeout is taken by Dallas. They have one remaining.
And that's well done by the Dallas rookie Coakley. That's a big gain and a first down if he doesn't come up big. You don't have a real computer, Al, if you don't have a cordless mouse.
I understand.
You're an also-ran.
Here's Chris Boniol, who kicked a 49-yarder earlier. This one from 45 yards to try to put the Eagles up by 17. And Boniol's kick is no good. Wide to the left. And that will bring it back to where the ball was spotted, and Dallas will have it at the 35-yard line with 1:06 remaining in the half and one timeout. That Philly drive, remember, started at the Eagle 5, was kept alive by the face mask penalty on the punt, and now Dallas gets it back at the 35.
Just putting a little too much into it, coming across it and pulling it to the left. And right now, I think the Dallas Cowboys will take their breaks in very small measures. And that was one of them right there.
And it'll be interesting to see what Philadelphia does with defense, because with 1:06 remaining, will they stay with what's worked? Will they go into some kind of a prevent? And it looks like they're going to slip into some kind of a nickel, maybe even a dime defense.
Cowboys no offensive touchdowns in the equivalent of almost 2 full games. Emmitt Smith, and we'll visit with him at halftime. A most interesting fella, of course, a guy on his way to the Hall of Fame, but tonight he's been bottled up for the most part. Picks up 8. Second down 2 up at the 43-yard line.
Right now, Emmitt would rather be on his way to the end zone than to Canton.
Aikman throws it over the middle to the 50-yard line. They'll give him the underneath stuff. That's Eric Bjornsson. The clock keeps ticking. The Cowboys have only one timeout remaining.
They're going to have to get something a little bigger than that.
They need to move with a little more urgency than they're moving right now. Come on, guys.
Thinking the same thing, Dan.
A lot more alacrity.
That too.
It's caught at the 32-yard line, and that's Anthony Miller hauling it in. They try to wrestle it loose. Philadelphia thinks they have it, but the play,
boy, nobody's rushing to say he's down.
Been whistled dead. It was.
Nobody was really rushing to come up there and point to the ground and say he's down.
And Dallas takes a timeout.
Well, Anthony Miller comes up with the play that they needed. That's his first catch of the night, isn't it?
Troy Vincent tries to wrestle it out.
We'll get a little help here.
And right there is about the time they normally blow the whistle. They go on the forward progress rule, and Miller was tied up. He wasn't going anywhere. That's good timing. And there's bad news for the Cowboys. They are looking at the left leg of the all-world guard, Larry Allen. He has held forth there at the right guard position for the last 3.5 years.
And John Flannery, the backup interior lineman, who can play center or guard, takes his place.
And the Cowboys are really thin on the offensive line. George Hegeman is out. They're down to almost nobody.
I think you're going to see him trying to get 6 to Irvin.
Chris Berman's halftime highlights. The interview with Emmitt Smith coming up at the half. The Cowboys have to make sure when this play ends, they are able to stop the clock, because they don't have a timeout. It's 1st and 10, and Aikman's going to go for 6, and it is not caught. Is there a flag? No. Anthony Miller looks around. Troy Vincent made contact, but legal.
Whoa! I don't know who
from up here.
Miller
It sure
touched
looks
the
like
ball.
Vincent was there early,
and it looked like a great throw. One that could have been caught.
Looked like Troy Vincent went for the arms of Anthony Miller. Let's take a look at it.
They just played it for everybody in the stadium, and thus the booing. Could have been called.
It's awfully close. You see the football flashing by there.
Well, it didn't get a flag, so it was a great defensive play.
Now 2nd and 10, 14 ticks. They go that way again, and this time we have the flag.
There it is.
He might have got away with it if it wouldn't have been for the right arm at the very end of that around the neck of Miller.
That'll get it every time.
You know, there was body contact prior to that. He might have got away with that, but not with lassoing him around the neck.
In the meantime, the Cowboys with a strategic decision here. Let's see where they're going to spot this football.
Or do they have time for one more play?
Well, you've got 8 seconds.
The pass interference call, number 83 stepped out of bounds. Therefore, he became an ineligible receiver, and we have no pass interference.
Whoa, baby!
he stepped out of bounds.
How many things can go wrong for the Cowboys?
So the interference was after he came back in bounds.
Well, he is technically an ineligible receiver after stepping out of bounds. You can't interfere with an ineligible receiver. It doesn't exist.
And thus we have a 48-yard field goal attempt by Richie Cunningham to end the first half. Ball spotted at the 38-yard line. And Cunningham's kick is good. They'll take a small victory after this half.
They'll take any victory, no matter how minute. Not that 3 points is minute, but another field goal at least gives them something positive to take indoors.
Especially the way it was looking with Philadelphia driving, and they were setting up for perhaps a 20-3 or even 24-3 lead. Here's another look.
Miller stepping out right there, and then the interference happened when he came back in. But incredible duels between receivers and cornerbacks here tonight.
You'll not find a more intense matchup. Yeah, you see right there his left foot is out of bounds. You won't find a more intense matchup than what we've seen tonight between both sets of receivers going against both sets of cornerbacks. And Troy Vincent, ooh, he's headed to the Eagle locker room, and look at him holding his left arm to his side.
Boy, that would be some loss. With Troy Vincent in there, they are able to take Bobby Taylor, their big cornerback, and lock him up on Michael Irvin. And they've been very successful with that combination.
Willie Clark, Charles Dimry are the backup cornerbacks for the Eagles. I've seen a lot of guys get better at halftime, though, in a hurry.
Particularly on a hot night.
Clock will start when an Eagle touches the football. And barring a penalty, this will be the final play of the first half, and that's the tight end Jimmy Johnson who runs it back out to the 37, and that'll do it for the first half in Irving, Texas. Dominated by the Eagles. A lot of the crowd booing at the half. They haven't seen this happen very often. Ray Rhodes' staff has done a magnificent job, at least through the first 30 minutes in terms of the strategy. Philadelphia leading at the half 17-6, and we'll return after this message from the National Football League and a word from our ABC stations. On this late, and back we come to Irving, Texas Stadium. 17-6 Eagles as we start the second half, and Philadelphia kicking off. Bonio with a short kick hauled in at the 11-yard line by Herschel Walker, and Walker out past the 40. Walker into Eagle territory, and it just keeps killing the Eagles. Bad kickoff coverage. Joe Avezzano, watching his special teams, put his offense in pretty good shape right now, and Joe Wessel, who came over from the Cincinnati Bengals, just shakes his head again.
Herschel Walker keeps rolling along, doesn't he? In his 12th year in the NFL, 3 years before that, the USFL, and his numbers are just growing with each game.
You know, one of the things that Barry Switzer talked about at halftime, let's get it started with a good kickoff return. We get the ball first. Well, Herschel did his part. Now let's see if the offense comes through.
From the 45-yard line, they begin with Emmitt Smith, and he picks up 5. And we think back to the Monday night game last year in Philadelphia when the Eagles led 10-0, and the Cowboys needed a spark, and it was a run back by Herschel Walker that got them back into a game they eventually won.
Well, nothing will lift you quite like a kickoff return.
Larry Allen still not in the Cowboy offensive line. You see John Flannery there, number 63. He's replaced the all-pro guard, and that's not a help for the Cowboys.
Charles Dimry has replaced Troy Vincent, who was shaken at the end of the first half and is not back. And here is Emmitt Smith picking up the first down to the 34-yard line. Take a look at the numbers through the first half.
If you are just tuning us in, sit down. It is Philadelphia's football game. They've totally dominated.
And that number is right there on the right side of your screen. 76 total yards for the Dallas Cowboys. 2 turnovers, 10 points for Philadelphia off those turnovers. A miserable first half offensively for Dallas.
And 24 passing yards from the arm of Aikman. And Aikman throws, and it's caught by Irvin, who springs loose. Taylor played him soft, and Michael takes advantage of it, and the Cowboys are in business deep in Philadelphia territory.
That's classic Aikman and Irvin, too. That ball was thrown just as Irvin was planting his foot to move to the outside. Almost impossible to cover. Aikman incredibly accurate. Maybe you can see the combination of the two.
Watch him turn Taylor, though.
Turned him right
the way around. That is not the best of technique by Bobby Taylor. Michael Irvin made him do a 360.
1st and 10 from the 11. Aikman's longest completion of the night. And they go back to Emmitt Smith, and he looks for room but doesn't find any. A nice play by Hollis Thomas, knifing through to tackle him.
Second-year guy to Northern Illinois, and Ray Rhodes again so pleased with the strength that Thomas brings to the interior. You know, we see what Gilbert Brown does up in Green Bay. When you get a guy who's low to the ground, Hollis Thomas, only 6 feet tall, 305, 310 pounds. Every team is really looking for that guy that can't get rooted out of there in the run game.
Keep in mind, we showed you the numbers. Dallas is having a difficult time scoring touchdowns in the red zone.
Fake to Smith, a roll by Aikman. Hits the open man. That's Moose Johnston, our first Moose call of the night. Darrell has not been a part of the offense to this point. Short gain here, tackled by James Willis. 3rd down from the 8. 3rd and about 7.
Everywhere you look, one member of the Eagle linebacking corps is making a tackle, either inside or outside. These guys can run. That time it was James Willis, his turn to make the play. These guys have really developed some team speed in Philadelphia. Ernie Zampese there.
He needs to roll a 7.
Yep, and they run out of time. Down to 4 seconds on the play clock. They're still in the huddle. Aikman's got to take a time.
So 3 minutes into the 3rd quarter, Dallas on the move, but still trailing by 11. Arizona, Dallas was in the red zone inside the 20 6 times, no touchdowns. Here they are now. This fuse ignited by Walker, and now Aikman and the gang try to make it pay off. Walker with a big run back, but it's 3rd down and 6 now from just inside the 8. After the timeout, double tight end set. Troy to throw. Good protection. Knocked away at the last moment by Charles Dimry, who's replacing Troy Vincent, who is out with a strained shoulder, and they tell us now he will not return. David LaFleur, the rookie tight end, was the intended receiver.
Well, Dimry, a good pickup for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's been a starting cornerback for a lot of years in the National Football League, most recently with Tampa Bay, and prior to that with Atlanta. He's got 14-15 career interceptions. Good coverage right here.
LaFleur, a huge target at 6'7", Dimry at 6 feet. Not able to take advantage of the fact that from a height standpoint there was a mismatch. Dimry just all over it.
Richie Cunningham from 25 yards away bangs it through. He's 11 of 12 in his young career. 46, 48, now 25 tonight. He's accounted for all the scoring. Philadelphia 17, Dallas 9. Again settled for a field goal after Herschel Walker had put them in very good shape. They got down into the red zone but settled for 3, and they're down by 8. 17-9 Philadelphia.
They just can't find the end zone.
And Richie Cunningham, 11 field goals in his first 3 games. He breaks an NFL record held for one day by Olindo Mare of Miami. Toby going to kick off. A yard into the end zone. Derek Witherspoon, a dangerous return man, brings it back to the 27-yard line. Monday Night Football is being brought to you by Coors Light, proud partner of the John Wayne Cancer Institute and their search for a cure. Saturn, a different kind of company, a different kind of car. And New Ruffles the Works. Now that's a potato chip.
Now would be a good time for the Dallas defense to step up and do something.
And a time for Ricky Watters to protect the football. What the Eagles don't need now is to give the Cowboys a turnover to make it easy.
From the 27, they give it to Ricky. He protects the football. And Darren Woodson finally wrestles him down, but not until after Ricky picks up 7 to the 34.
It's not a, excuse me. not a casual remark on the part of Dan's, because Ricky's turned it over. He drops that thing about once every 57 times he carries the football. That's an awful lot. Something to think about.
At this stage of the game, when you're trying to, when you have the lead on the road, don't make it easy by giving them a turnover.
2nd and 3. Waters again. Ricky past the 40. Ricky to the 50. Bumped out of bounds by Sanders. And Omar Stoudemire in Dallas territory. Let's check in with Lynn Swan. Lynn.
Well, just to go back to Barry Switzer and the Dallas offense for a moment, he told me at halftime he needed his offense to possess the ball, move it down the field. He had to get the ball to Michael Irvin to make something happen. And the reason is because his defense was getting tired. He felt they were on the field too long. They were getting exhausted. He says, we've got to come out and make something happen. He also said the blitz that the Eagles are using was one they had not seen before. He believes they picked up the blocking for the second half now.
They better hope they have, because it was very effective in that first half. Thank you, Lynn. First down at the 46-yard line. Play clock down to 0.
He didn't get it.
He didn't get it off.
Delay.
Now, you're right, Lynn. I'm sure the Cowboys spent all halftime working on that blitz pickup. It's also safe to assume that Emmett Thomas knows that and will come with something different here in half number 2.
Delay game, offense, 5 yards, repeat first down.
Again, though, even with that penalty, a very impressive drive so far by the Eagles. A couple explosive runs by Ricky Waters. John Gruden, their offensive coordinator. What he's calling is working.
1st and 15. Detmer surveying, dump off Waters, but he gets wrapped up for the loss and shoved out of bounds. A flag is thrown by Antonio Anderson.
It came down very late and upfield.
Well, I don't know why Detmer ended up throwing it to Ricky. The Cowboys sniffed this screen out. We're all over it. Ty gave up on it right away, looked elsewhere, didn't find anything, and still threw it to Ricky Waters when he had nowhere to go.
Ron Blum originally indicated ineligible man downfield, but then pointed toward Dallas. He meant Philadelphia. Corrects the call right now.
And Dan, you know, on a screen like that, when it gets out of sync and out of timing, you run a real risk of having those linemen who can't see what's going on moving downfield.
Ineligible player, number 61 offense, illegally downfield. That penalty is declined, 2nd down.
That's the center, Steve Everett, out in the screen, got beyond the line of scrimmage, and got the flag.
You saw Ricky Waters tied up with rookie defensive tackle Antonio Anderson all the way out of bounds. But you're right, Frank. Once a screen is out of sync, it's not ever going to get back in sync.
Makes it 2nd down and 18 from the 46. Crowd really into it now. Detmer underneath, hits Jason Dunn. Short gain, tackled by Randall Godfrey. It's a pickup of about 3. It'll be 3rd and 15.
Funny how something as seemingly trivial as a 5-yard penalty changes everything. The Eagles doing extremely well running the football. All of a sudden have a delay of game, get into a 1st and 15, and now back-to-back passes, and they haven't netted a yard yet.
Philadelphia up by 8. A little more than 9 minutes to go in the 3rd. 3rd down and 15. Only a 3-man rush and 8 back, and somehow it goes through the arms of a defender and into the hands of Michael Timpson, through the hands of Charlie Williams, but still short of the 1st down.
I think we're right between his hands. I think he thought he might have had the interception.
Tough situation here now. I assume you're going to punt it. It's a 55-yard field goal or somewhere in that vicinity.
They're at the 38-yard line. It is 4th down and a long yard.
If it's the old rules where you get the ball to 20 after a missed field goal, I think they tried. Oh, yeah, you saw that it was tipped and yet still caught.
And should have been caught by Williams.
Tom Hutton. Dion calls for a fair catch, but he's going to let it go at the 6-yard line. It was actually Kevin Mathis calling for the fair catch. Mathis was back and let it go, and the Eagles down the ball at the 10. So Aikman and the gang come back down 17-9. Aikman and Ty Detmer, the opposing quarterbacks tonight, and here is the quarterback comparison. Detmer, well, he's not going to dazzle you with those numbers, but he's been effective, and Troy having what for him is a terrible night.
Played a lot of football to see a couple of mediocre passing numbers like that.
First down from the 9-yard line, and Emmitt Smith begins this drive with a 1-yard gain up to the 10. Second down and 9. 8:20 to go. Third quarter. Philly up 17-9.
To this point in time, you just can't say enough nice things about the defense of the Philadelphia Eagles. They are flying to the football. They are being stout at the line of scrimmage. They are battling the Cowboy receivers every inch down the field. Key right now, Troy Vincent out of the game, isn't coming back. And Charles Dimry hold his own out on the corner.
Second and 9. Emmett. Nothing happening. Red Hall. Nice play. Hall made that interception last week. Key play of the game against Brett Favre, leading to the victory. Former 49er.
And that time working against Nate Newton, and he takes Nate back to the inside, and Nate Newton playing with really only one arm. He's got a bad right shoulder, going to need surgery at the end of the season, and Nate Newton not able to control the guy across from him the way he would like to and the way he has in years past. Again, exact same number of rushes, double the production for the Eagles.
Third down and 10. Here they come from the corner. Aikman throws, and it's caught, and it's Irvin making the catch. Got position on Dimry and picks up a key first down. Bobby Taylor blitzed that time, and so Dimry was left out on the island with Irvin and Michael Beacham.
Exactly. He was man for man, but the key thing was Dallas this time picked up the blitz and gave Aikman time to throw the ball. Here's the move. Irvin on Dimry, who has to respect the deep move. But Aikman with plenty of time to throw. That wasn't the case in the first quarter and into the second quarter. Aikman under tremendous pressure. That time they picked up the blitz. He had time to throw a perfect combination.
Well, Switzer told Swanee that they knew how to pick it up, and they did.
Aikman throws, dangerous pass, and it is hauled in by Eric Bjornsson, though Brian Dawkins thought it hit the ground. Officials say no, he caught it.
Bjornsson now in his 4th year, still is not giving to this team what Jay Novacek did over the years, and that is that other receiver, the clutch man who can take it deep, take it across the middle, pick up the first down. He's rapidly improving, but he's down to about 220 pounds now. And here's the big man, LaFleur, the #1 draft pick out of LSU. They expect big things from him.
Second down 8 from the 23-yard line. Emmett finds enough of a hole to turn it into a decent gain out near the 28-yard line. Tackled there by Charles Dimry.
Up close looking at Emmitt Smith coming right at you, but not experiencing the massive holes he's seen in the past.
3rd and 3, and it is dropped by Eric Bjornsson. Started to look upfield before he looked it into his hands, and Dallas forced to punt.
Well, he would not have had the first had he caught the ball. He made his move short of the first down. That's kind of a cardinal no-no. And he was looking for the oncoming truck, I think. And he found one.
The rookie punter, Toby Goen. Mark Say back for Philadelphia. Wobbly floater. Say on the run from the 35, brings it back to the 44-yard line. Tackled there by Billy Davis. So the Eagles have it near midfield. 5:08 left in the third. Philadelphia 17, Dallas 9. Night football Prudential fact. The Dallas Cowboys last week at Arizona losing the game. As you can see, the Cowboys turned it over only once. Arizona turned it over 4 times. The Cowboys outgained Arizona by over 40 yards. First game in 5 years in which a team lost a game with a +3 advantage, turnover differential, and outgained the winner. But that was their fate last week, and tonight they're down by 8. Detmer starts the drive from the 45. Ricky Waters breaks tackles, takes it to the 46, and close to a first down. Deion Sanders trips him up.
Well, you can be hurt with the passing game on the blitz, but the run game can hurt the blitz also. That time, Cowboys coming with the blitz, they blocked it out beautifully in a big hole.
And if the Cowboys defensively are tired, as Barry Switzer said at halftime, then there is no better way to come at a tired defensive team than to come at them with a great back. And that's what the Eagles can do with Ricky Waters.
Second and, in effect, inches. Now they opt to play it conservatively and move the sticks as Kevin Turner picks up a couple.
There's Fred Strickland, the missing Dallas middle linebacker, the normal starter in there. He hurt his knee last week, his right knee, and not sure when he'll be back. And Vincent Smith has to move from outside to the inside. The Cowboys are so thin at linebacker, they only dressed 4 tonight. And keep in mind, a rookie on one side, a second-year guy in Randall Godfrey on the other. That's thin.
Here comes everybody.
First down from the 44. It's a floater. It's a duck that's thrown out of bounds.
I think Coakley hit him right at the end, didn't he? I think talking about the linebackers, I think the rookie got in there and got a piece of Detmer.
Dallas now living with the blitz. Deion wanted an interference call. That ball was uncatchable.
Dexter Coakley listed at 5'10", really closer to 5'9", if I were to guess.
That's what Deion was complaining about.
And justifiably so. Deion has as much right to catch that football as anybody else.
Second and 10 from the 44. Late third quarter. Dallas blitzing. They pick it up. Swing it out to Ricky Waters. Prances his way to the 35-yard line, a little shy of the first down. Randall Godfrey with the blitz that time, but picked up, and Ricky puts him in a position where it's third down and short.
Good pickup of the blitz and a good read by quarterback Ty Detmer, and heads up by Ricky Waters.
Another key part of the Dallas defense missing right now, Chad Henning's strained groin, and that's why Antonio Anderson, the rookie out of Syracuse, is seeing a lot of action. Third and a long one. Waters. First down to the 32-yard line.
An offensive lineman's dream. Being able to hammer it away at a defense. You have the lead. You have the luxury of being able to run the football. And right now, Mayberry and Panos and Everett, Beckles and Brooks are having fun.
Well, for the second week in a row, Dan, it's been this hot weather for the Dallas Cowboys. They had all kinds of problems in the fourth quarter last week against Arizona in that heat.
From the 32. Detmer buys time. Throws 20-yard line. Irving Fryer. Been pretty quiet tonight, but they go Irving's way. Former Patriot, former Dolphin. First catch of the night for Fryer.
Well, he has been attracting double coverage wherever he's gone on the football field. I know Barry Switzer, when they went into this game, said we've got to stop Ricky Waters and we've got to stop this man, number 80. He is the lifeblood of this passing game for Philadelphia. You take him away, and you saw the numbers a moment ago. They were under 100 yards.
And a first down pass and completion for a first down. Right now, John Gruden has Dallas on their heels.
Here's Waters, and he's now gained 97 yards. A flag is down. Antonio Anderson makes the tackle, and it's against Philadelphia. So make Ricky's number 96. Ray Rhodes wearing his John Thompson towel.
Well, he knows how much that hurts. You've got a good thing going.
10 yards, repeat first down.
Some guys just scowl better than other guys.
Well, they do.
And we said it earlier. He just is so intense. He can literally will these players to play a little bit at a little higher level than they ordinarily would. That's tough to do today.
First and 20. from the 29. Detmer throws, and it's Kevin Turner making the catch, and he's tackled by Vincent Smith.
Kevin Turner came from New England, where a few years ago, I think in '94, he caught 52 passes or something like that. He can catch the ball. He's primarily known as a blocker and a short yardage man. Tough guy. Played with slight concussion last week against Green Bay. Shouldn't be admiring it. You shouldn't do it, but he stayed in there. And he's a good receiver coming out of the backfield.
2nd and 8 from the 17-yard line. Ricky Waters can't swing to the outside. Good play. Darren Woodson, one of the reasons he goes to the Pro Bowl, a play like that. Very good, obviously, in pass defense, but a terrific run stopper as well.
But look at the end of these plays, how slowly the Cowboys are getting back to their feet. This is a drive that is taking an awful lot out of the Dallas Cowboys defensively. These guys are whipped. They are tired and they are struggling. They are fighting where they're playing right now on emotion alone.
3rd and 10. 3-man front, clinching up front.
And give a lot of credit right there to Shante Carver. He got Mayberry to go.
He's been complaining all night about it too, Dan.
One offense.
You're not allowed to come into the neutral zone when you give that flinch. That's the old Neil Smith move. But if you do it in your stance, if you do it without crossing the football, it's legal. And Carver that time got Mayberry to go. This is when you're poised and ready to go. Watch at the bottom of your screen. That's it. That's simulating the start of a play.
Makes it 3rd down, 15 from the 24, and they give it to Waters, and he gets bottled up at the 22. Now you're looking at a 39-yard Boniol field goal to put Philly up by 11.
Very conservative call on the part of Ray Rhodes. He has a lot of confidence in his defense.
And that kick will come when the 4th quarter commences, because that's the end of the 3rd in Texas. The Eagles 17, the Cowboys 9. Monday Night Football returns after this from our ABC stations. Texas, Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, Dan Dierdorf, Lynn Swan. We start the 4th quarter. Philadelphia trying to go up by 11. As you look over Emmitt Smith's shoulder, Chris Boniol to attempt a 39-yard field goal. And it will probably come from a different distance now. It will not affect a 1st down situation because it's 4th and 12.
Prior to the snap, 65, false start. 5 yards, repeat 4th down.
Bubba Miller. Right now the Cowboys are having a field day, flinching over on their side of the ball and getting somebody in an Eagles jersey to pull up out of their stance.
It will now be a 43-yard field goal attempt. Tom Hutton to hold it. Boniol has made one and missed one tonight, and this one is good, just inside the left upright. So he's made them from 49 and from 38, and the Eagles lead the Cowboys 20-9. 5 seconds into the 4th quarter.
And the Cowboys' biggest weapon is that guy right there.
They'll need him again here, Herschel Walker, to jumpstart them.
Herschel has certainly done his part to give the Cowboys outstanding field position time after time.
Cluster coverage. Boniol's kick is a wobbler, and that just does stay in bounds at the 10-yard line to Brock Marion. And despite pinning him, there are the Eagles again, and their shortcoming rears its ugly head as he brings it all the way back to the 42. Boniol knocks him out of bounds.
Boniol shows a little speed for a kicker.
Yeah.
I thought Brock Marion was going to be able to turn the corner. Chris Boniol really sprinted for a kicker.
O'Neal also got the ball to the man he wanted to get it to keep it away from Herschel Walker, and Marion runs it right down their throat.
Joe Alvisano was so happy because that's a whole lot more than he expected. Fielded at the 10-yard line, right on the sideline. And this is pretty doggone good speed by Chris O'Neal.
48-yard return. Now Dallas in business again at the 41-yard line. Aikman throws, going deep, caught, over the shoulder catch. Michael Irvin inside the 15.
And Bobby Taylor with pretty good position. That ball perfectly timed out with Michael Irvin, and I can't tell you how many times they practiced that.
Well, the playmaker doing everything he can do to fire his team up. Michael Irvin is the emotional leader of this football team.
Look at this. It is on the inside where he should be. Again, that very physical pushing and shoving on the part of Michael Irvin that doesn't seem to draw flags.
And a perfect pass from Aikman.
From the 14, Emmett Smith dances his way down to the 10-yard line, banged hard by William Thomas. Emmett a little slow in rising.
How many times tonight have the Cowboys had that great field position and just couldn't get it in?
Well, they don't even want to hear the two words that begin with an F and a G.
Last 7 drives inside the 20, going back to last week in Arizona. No touchdowns. 2nd and 6. Smith. Emmett takes it to the 6. It'll be 3rd and 2. He's tackled there by Andy Harmon, and Emmett now has gone almost 5 full games without scoring a rushing touchdown.
Well, certainly now looking at the best opportunity that he and the Cowboys have seen in quite some time.
3rd and 2. Will they try to hammer it out? It'd be a great time for a play action.
Miller split left, Irvin split right.
I'd give it to Emmett.
They send Johnston in motion. 3rd and a long 2. They're going to throw it. Aikman under pressure. Aikman has to throw it away. And they're going to hear those ugly words.
Boy, just credit an Eagles defense that is playing brilliantly tonight.
And the crowd boos.
The defense is like they've been in the Cowboys huddle.
They're not exactly greeting the arrival of Richie Cunningham as happy days.
Another look, just no place to put it. You can't blame Troy. Saved the sack, just threw it away.
I'd have been tempted to pound it in there.
24-yard attempt by Cunningham, and they get 3. That's 4 field goals tonight for Cunningham. 9 in 2 weeks.
Well, you make it a one-possession game. You're back to a touchdown and a 2-pointer to tie it up.
Is Nebraska, Washington. Most of you will see that, and there are the other games: Arizona, Ohio State, and the rest. We go to Jacksonville next week. The Jaguars on Monday night for the first time. What a great scene that'll be as the Pittsburgh Steelers take on the undefeated Jaguars from Jacksonville next Monday night. This is Witherspoon rolling in the Toby Dolan kick at the 4, and he's tackled at the 16-yard line. Down the special teams doing a good job tonight. Mathis makes the tackle. Meanwhile, the Dallas offense still a picture of frustration. 4 field goals, and they're down 20-12. In the 4th quarter, Philadelphia has the ball. They lead by 8. They start this drive from the 17-yard line, and they give it to Ricky Waters. Gain of 2 to the 19-yard line. 2nd down and 8, and a marker is down.
A late one.
Against the Eagles for holding. Referee is Ron Blum.
Holding, 80 offense. Half the distance to the goal. Repeat first down.
Monday Night Football is being brought to you by Miller Lite, now the official beer sponsor of the NFL. The new Dodge and the new 4-door Ram Quad Cab pickup. The rules have changed. Visa, the official card of the NFL. It's everywhere you want to be. And Southwest Airlines, which fares so low, you have the freedom to fly. Troy Vincent hurt in the first half, listed as a sprained shoulder in a sling, looks on from the tunnel. Meanwhile, Barrett Brooks, the tackle, was just hurt on the last play for Philadelphia. Jerry Kraft spells him. 1st and 18. Pressure is on. Waters takes the swing pass, and Woodson wrestles him down at the 11-yard line.
Good play by Woodson. You can juke him all you want. He's going to line up on your belt buckle, and he's going to take it.
Darren Woodson has played a really special game to this point. He's been making tackle after tackle, big play after big play. Exactly what you want out of your strong safety. He is a force in their running game. He's been a force in their passing game.
2nd down 15 from the 11. Detmer guns it over the middle, but a short gain. It's complete out to the 16-yard line. Waters makes that catch, and he's tackled there by Benson Smith.
Very conservative on the part of the Eagles. John Gruden calling the plays from high up above, and I'm sure that Ray Rhodes has a thought that he's added from time to time. Just don't kill ourselves. They haven't tried to do anything of any low percentage.
3rd down and 10. Detmer hangs in, throws, and it's incomplete, intended for Irving Fryer, blanketed by Deion Sanders. 4th down.
And Irving Fryer's hurt.
Irving is. He's slow getting up. I thought he was just tired, but now he's limping.
Ooh, and this is critical for Philadelphia. Chris T. Jones is not playing tonight. And Irving Fryer there on the break. He did it on the break. When he went to go to the sidelines is when he injured his right leg, it looks like.
He planted it, drove off it, and it looked like he could have hurt his right knee.
That's Chris T. Jones right there on the sidelines already, and now it looks like he's going to be joined by Irving Fryer. So the Eagles are going to have to, if Irving doesn't come back, may have to finish this game without their number 1 and their number 2 receiver.
Look at it again. He plants the heel right there. Hard to tell, but one thing you could tell, Deion had great coverage.
And now Deion
let him
return the kick.
Well, aided by the holding call against Irving Fryer that put the Eagles into that 1st and 20 situation. They couldn't get out of it.
Deion with his own unique routine to get loose. Tommy Hutton to punt. Low liner. Deion angry because he couldn't field it on the fly. Has to grab it on a hop. And he's tackled at the 35-yard line. Looking to lateral. Deion angry. He wanted to grab it on the fly, but he's an outfielder. And he knew he couldn't get it. He'd have to short hop it. 10:48 left in regulation. Look of concern. A man who really has worked very hard to reshape the image of this team. You all read about it and heard about it, how the Cowboys were going to tighten it this year. Different kind of training camp. And they were more interested in making all of the headlines on the field instead of off the field, in contrast to prior years, as Aikman from the 34 throws, and it's caught by Anthony Miller up at the 48-yard line. And things went fairly swimmingly for Dallas outside of that Lefebvre DFW with Barry Switzer with a loaded handgun in his carry-on, for which he was very contrite as they work on Michael Irvin.
That looks like a cramp. And that's what you get when you get on the verge of dehydration.
Irving Fryer having his right ankle retaped, trying to get him back in this football game. But now the concern lies with the other talented wide receiver in this game, Michael Irvin. Oh,
it's got to be a cramp. I couldn't imagine being anything else on a night like tonight.
Well, it's either a cramp or he could have pulled a hamstring. There are some. Well, there's the good sign that it's a cramp. When they force the toe back like that.
That's in the calf muscle, and I know you've been there, Dan. You push it back, it hurts.
And they work on Emmett as well. Remember, Emmett had those bruised ribs last week and couldn't get x-rayed because the door was locked to the x-ray room in Sun Devil Stadium in Arizona, and he couldn't come back into the game. Stepford Williams is a guy who saw a lot of action last week when Anthony Miller was hurt and couldn't play. Looks like he's reaching for the hamstring to begin with.
Well, it looked like he reached for his right hamstring, but they're stretching out his left leg, so confusing signals. Yep, coming from the Cowboy wide receiver.
He's getting a lot of TLC, I can tell you that.
Well, Barry Switzer and others asked this crowd to dress in white, and they did. And we started to talk about the Cowboys, and we dealt with it at halftime with Emmitt Smith, and Barry wanted to change things around. He was very embarrassed, obviously, and extremely contrite about what had happened at the airport that day. The well-known story about having the loaded gun going through security and not being aware of it. And naturally, the spate of stories began again. That, Barry's going to get fired. We read those stories since about the fourth week of his pro coaching career. On the other side of the coin, there's Ray. We were in the meeting last night with Ray Rhodes. He's walking out. There are a bunch of articles lying on a tabletop. He sees another one in Philadelphia last week about will Rhodes leave Philadelphia. He's walking out of the room and he says, "Don't believe any of that bleep." And then somebody said, "Well, where does it come from?" And Ray said, "They're always talking about the source is a close friend of Ray Rhodes." He says, "I have no close friends."
Well, this looks here bad for Michael Irvin, though.
I'm sure he does somewhere along the line, but they're not allowed to say who it is and who they are.
Meanwhile, Irvin needs assistance, and Dion comes in, and that's Dion at the top of the screen. Shin strap dangling from the 48-yard line. And Aikman throws for Dion, but can't communicate with him.
That was a double out by Dion working against Bobby Taylor. Bobby Taylor was not impressed with the double out. Let's take a look at it. A little out move, then it looked like you're going to fly, and then you take it out again. Top of your screen, man-for-man coverage. They're not too concerned about Dion. Now you'll do it. Now you do it right there. Taylor spins around, but when you're that far away from the passer, you can do the spin around and get back to the ball.
Really trying to work on the left calf of Irvin.
2nd and 10. Flag goes down. There was flinching and movement. And Smith carries the ball to the 42-yard line of Philadelphia, but let's see about the call.
Ron Blum moving at a leisurely pace.
And speaking with, well, he's a golfer.
He's not headed for a 4-hour round at this pace.
And he and Aikman are going to go over the options here. The pass, see, Smith took it to about
Offside.
the 43.
59 defense. Penalties decline. 3rd down.
So they opt to take the play, which leaves them with a 3rd and 1 at the 43-yard line.
Mike Mamula was offsides. And Larry Allen, remember, gone on the right side. The strength of the Cowboys offensively now lies on the left side of their offensive line.
Tight formation, and Aikman's going to do it himself. He needs a long yard and appears to have it. Willing his way to a 1st down. And Blum makes it official.
And Ray Donaldson's not that big man at center anymore. A little risky there with Clay Shiver trying to fill in for the big Ray Donaldson, who retired.
Yeah, Shiver is new at the center position. Nate Newton is banged up at left guard with the bum right shoulder. Larry Allen is on the bench.
Pretty risky call right there.
Mark Tuinei in his 15th year in the league. The good news is Eric Williams is back better than ever over at right tackle.
From the 42-yard line, they pick up the blitz, and it is caught by Step Fred Williams, who comes in for the injured Irvin. First down at the 25 on his first catch of the night.
Good timing between Aikman and Williams. See the good timing. Williams had no choice. He had to catch that ball because he turned around and looked for it, and it was right in his face. Third-round pick a year ago. Let's take a look at Stepford. 6 feet tall, kind of frail, but 5 receptions last week against Arizona and really pressed the Cowboys. It's a bad scene here.
Yep. Michael just can't get that calf muscle to loosen up.
8:20 left in regulation.
They didn't get this.
And that's the second time they've had to take a timeout in this half. So here's a team trailing by 8, needing to conserve timeouts. They have to get into the end zone, in effect, twice to tie the game. Once on a touchdown and again on a conversion. And now they're down to only 1 timeout.
Yeah, it looks like it's loosening up now.
Of course, the concern right now is whether or not it's a cramp or whether maybe he pulled the calf. Maybe there's actually some. He's pulling his socks back up, so maybe we'll see Michael Irvin back out on the field.
The last 14 scores for the Cowboys on Monday Night Football going back to last year in the Philadelphia Monday night game. Field goals. Remember, there was the Green Bay game last year that they won 21-6 on the 7 Boneyol field goals that precipitated that fight at the end of the game. And tonight, all field goals. Last year, Dallas was the team that beat Green Bay and New England without scoring a touchdown in either game. First down from the 24. Aikman off balance, going to the end zone and throws it out of the end zone, intended for Moose Johnston.
You know you're running out of receivers when you line Moose Johnston up at a wide receiver and run him on a fade pattern. Yes. You know you're getting a little thin at the wide receiver position.
One would think you'd see a little Herschel Walker in there before you'd see that.
Moose was lined up to the wide side of the formation.
Don't get hurt, Moose.
A valiant effort for a ball that was about 6 yards out of bounds. And Michael Irvin now putting his gloves back on.
There's Walker. You saw Sanders. None of them in on second down and 10. And Aikman guns it and completes it to the 10-yard line to Eric Bjornsson. First down.
Boy,
tackled by Dawkins.
Clutch pass and a clutch reception.
And Mamula put the pressure on and knocked Aikman to the turf.
And Troy's a little nicked. Troy is really trying to gather himself. That hurt. He's going to, from the right side of your screen, Mamula came in from the back side. Good throw and a really nice job of Bjornsson staying with that football when Dawkins was all over him.
First and goal just inside the 10-yard line. Troy to the air. Good protection. Throws underneath. Caught at the 4. There's Moose Johnston. Second and goal. William Thomas wraps him up. Irvin's going to try to come back in the game.
And the big tight end comes in, David LaFleur. 2 tight ends.
Emmitt Smith, Emmitt Smith, Emmitt Smith. Got the ball at the 3-yard line. Pound away.
Ninth play of the drive, out of the eye. Johnston the blocking back. Emmitt the eye back. Emmitt Smith seeking the end zone. Wrapped up at the line of scrimmage and thrust back by his ex-teammate Darren Smith.
Philadelphia last week so good against Green Bay inside the 5.
And there's not a whole lot to the outside against this Eagle defense with their speed.
Well, there was a day not too many years ago, Dan, where you'd take it right up the middle.
He looked back to the inside, and Michael Zordich, the strong safety, was in the hole.
That was when Donaldson was there, Allen was healthy, and Newton.
Third down and goal. They give it to Smith, who tries to cut it back, and Emmitt gets pounded at the 4. Fourth and goal, and James Willis makes the tackle.
What you can't do against this kind of speed is change direction on it.
And if you're looking for a big, big difference in this Dallas Cowboys football team. Here it is. Back-to-back nothings out of Emmitt Smith and his offensive team in a pressure situation down on the goal line.
Just losing the war at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, that's not Emmett's fault. Nothing there.
Down to Richie Cunningham for a 22-yarder.
Timeout, Philadelphia. Their first charge team timeout. This is a 30-second timeout.
Eagles with perhaps the wrong personnel on the field.
And again, guys, this should send tremors through the Cowboy organization and through their support base, their fans here. Their inability to pound the football. This is a football team that in the 90s were the class example of being able to pound the football, and now it appears to be a lost start here in Dallas.
They had everything going on opening day. They routed Pittsburgh. It shocked everybody, and then last week couldn't get into the end zone. Their only touchdown last week, a defensive score. Still stretching out Michael, as the Cowboys will need to get the ball again and get it in. The only good thing about this field goal is that at least they won't need a touchdown and a two-point conversion, but they'll still need a touchdown
to just tie. You're right.
22-yarder, Cunningham's 5th of the night if he makes it, equaling his total last week. 13 for the season for the guy in his first year.
So our last 2 trips here, we've seen 12 Dallas field goals.
We have.
So far.
Well, this is the time when they're going to be talking to the Eagles offensive team and basically telling them you can win a football game if you can go out there and put a drive together. Dallas down to 1 timeout. And the Eagles, we know, are certainly capable of doing just that. They did it against Green Bay.
Captain Aaron Jenkins, and we mention Aaron because he's going to retire after flying the Goodyear blimp tonight, and there he is high above Texas Stadium in Irving, just outside Dallas. A reminder, check out the NFL online at NFL.com for score, stats, and all the rest at that address. Next week we go to Jacksonville. What a great scene that's going to be. The Jacksonville Jaguars, and only God knows who's going to start at quarterback as Moose gets some oxygen. There's a slight chance it could be Mark Brunell. Rob Johnson hasn't practiced, and he led him to that win on opening day, and then Steve Matthews led him to the win against the Giants, and they've got the ex-Steeler Jim Miller. Who knows? But what a night it's going to be in Jacksonville, Florida. Jaguars Steelers.
Saw some footage this week of Brunell taking some pass sets with a leg brace.
Derek Witherspoon brings it back to the 20-yard line. It's going to be a lot of fun the next 2 weeks as we go to Jacksonville for the first time and then into Charlotte for the first time ever the following week as the Panthers take on the 49ers.
Good news for Philadelphia. It looks like Barrett Brooks, their regular right tackle, is coming back onto the field. Remember, he came out the last time the Eagles had the ball.
This is a gut check time now for both sides of the ball here. The Dallas defense and the Philadelphia offense. Fans know it.
Heart goes fun, Frank.
First down from the 21-yard line. They give it to Waters. He picks up 2. Up to the 23. The Eagles will now take as much time as they can between plays to let the clock tick down. Again, it can only stop once with a Dallas timeout and then once more at the 2-minute warning. Waters tonight, 18 carries, 99 yards.
Philadelphia has to be a little careful they just don't get too conservative about this. One thing Detmer has shown that he'll not hurt you.
Here comes Dion over to shadow Irving Fryer in the slot.
He takes the play clock all the way down to 3. They give it to Waters, and Ricky very close to a 2-yard shy of the first down of the 29, setting up a very crucial 3rd and 2.
Oh, and this, boy, does that run give John Gruden, their offensive coordinator, a lot more options. Boy, his playbook has expanded by a bunch when you're now looking at 3rd and a deuce. I think Deion Sanders drinks coffee during a football game to stay awake.
They don't go that way very often. Third down and 2. Huge defensive play for Dallas.
It's locked up with Irving Fryers, Dion.
Waters doesn't get it, so they hold and they'll get the ball back.
Well, when the Dallas defense had to do it, as long as they've been out on the field, they came through. And a very frustrating 3 in and out for Philadelphia.
Tom Hutton, 6th punt of the game. Deion Sanders standing back at his own 25-yard line.
Working up the crowd.
The man who leads the National League, the National Baseball League in stolen bases, even at this point.
Boy, does he want this ball.
And he's going to get it at the 29-yard line. Gets an initial block. Works his way to the other side of the field. Turns the corner. But runs a long way to pick up only about 8 yards. Billy Davis with a block. He's out of bounds at the 38-yard line.
And Jason Dunn, I think, was the recipient of that block.
He was, and he really is shaken up.
Jason, the man on the edge. He'll come into the screen on the left. And right there, you see the finish of that block by Billy Davis.
Caught Dunn right in the chest, and Dunn is slow coming off the field.
When you don't see those coming, those are devastating hits.
Eagles 16-0 in the regular season under Rhodes when leading after 3. Amazing. Part of it is this team is in great shape. Rhodes whips them into great shape.
Well, here's a wonderful opportunity to demonstrate it.
Well, he has collected a group of players that think and feel like he feels. It's a 100% effort at all times.
This drive starts from the 39. Dallas needs to go 61 with 1 timeout and the 2-minute warning. And Aikman had it slip out of his hand and incomplete. Moose Johnston, the intended receiver.
Well, that will happen on a very warm night also. Your wrist gets wet and it drips down into your hand, drips onto the ball.
I can't imagine many other quarterbacks I'd rather have in this position than Troy Aikman. You can tell just by looking at him that he's pretty much unfazed by this.
Irvin, of course, back.
On 2nd and 10. Aikman throws, and that's almost picked off and knocked down by Rhett Hall, who had the interception last week on the Brett Favre backhander. 3rd down and 10.
Michael Irvin is going to leave. He can't do it. He's cramped up again, and just when they need him the most, he's going to have to leave. Again, trying to get it to Johnston.
Well, and as is oftentimes the case, the one defensive lineman who doesn't get any penetration at all ends up blocking the football. Rhett Hall never left the line of scrimmage and yet had the presence of mind to get up and block the pass.
3rd down and 10. Step Fred Williams in the game to replace Irvin. And they're reduced to trying it on the ground. And Emmitt Smith can get only 5 to the 43 where he's tackled by Zordich.
Oh.
And the crowd sending a message to Ernie Zampese.
Not a nice one. And that is a questionable call. You've got 3rd and 10.
Well, they've got to go for it now.
They have to.
Well, you figure you're in a 2-play situation, but well, I guess with Michael Irvin on the bench, Anthony Miller would be the logical choice the receiver to go to.
It comes down to this. 4th down and 5 from the 43.
A little flare to Emmitt wouldn't be bad either.
Emmitt stays in the block, and it is incomplete, but a flag is thrown. They call interference on Dimry. Right in front of the Philadelphia bench.
Oh, and the Eagles players are out on the field. They better.
And the Eagles again tipped? Saying it was deflected, and the officials will confer.
Well, the Eagles are saying it was tipped.
In which case, that would negate that call.
It would negate it, but we for the naked eye, I couldn't see it tipped.
Did Mamula touch it, 59? Whoa.
Boy, it's hardly perceptible, but we can see it on slow motion. He did.
38 defense. Get off the field. Pass interference. 38 defense. First down, Dallas.
Interjecting a little message to the Eagle bench.
A lot of the Eagle players ran out onto the field and are fortunate they didn't get called.
We are at the 2-minute warning. Irving, Texas. Philadelphia leads by 5. First down after the interference call at the 44-yard line. Michael Irvin not in the game. Aikman, swing pass, Emmitt Smith to the 41-yard line. Cowboys have one timeout. Another look at the deflection, not seen by the officials, but you can't blame them on this one.
No, watch very, very closely. The left pinky finger of Mike Mamula is going to hit the, watch the ball rise. See it go up? He hit it, but look, he did not change the rotation of the football. It's very easy to understand why no official saw it.
2nd and 7, and it's thrown, and a diving catch is made by Eric Bjornsson at the 18-yard line.
What a great effort by the tight end who used to be a wide receiver at the University of Washington, and you saw him acting like a wide receiver. He stretched out for that ball. It was overthrown. He made a brilliant catch.
24 yards, a guy who actually started as a quarterback. Cowboys conserving their sole timeout. From the 17, Aikman to throw, swings it to Emmett. Emmett will step out of bounds to stop the clock with a minute to play. Dimry forces him out inside the 15. 2nd down, 7.
What a pass, what a catch by Bjornsson. Laying out. Talk about a big play for your team when your team desperately needs one.
The playmaker on the bench, Michael Irvin. They don't have him. They bring in Herschel Walker. Herschel Walker's a good receiver. He can work out of the backfield or he can work in the slot, and this time they'll put him in the slot right.
In the slot, Shepard Williams wide right, Anthony Miller wide to the left. Aikman hustling out of the pocket. Aikman throwing to the back of the end zone. It is caught for a touchdown by Miller.
Troy Aikman kept that alive. Anthony Miller, who they said they needed back desperately at wide receiver, they were right. But Aikman throwing it back away from the way he was running, a brilliant pass.
And look at that. That ball was actually hit by Watson. Watson tipped the football, and Miller stayed with it.
And the Cowboys will go for 2 to try to make it a 3-point lead. Remember, Philly gets the ball back with 51 seconds, and they have 2 timeouts. Troy throws, and it's incomplete, so it's a 1-point lead, and the Philly field goal would win the game as Darren Smith put the pressure on Aikman. So as Irvin and the rest look on, Michael out of the game because he's hurt. Miller missed last week's game because he was hurt, but he's the hero of the moment. It's 21-20, Philly to get the ball back with 51 ticks to play. Texas Stadium going wild. Another look at Anthony Miller. Picked up as a free agent in the offseason. Watson got a hand on it. Miller stayed with it.
Well, first of all, great concentration on the part of Anthony Miller.
I think everybody in the stadium thought that Troy Aikman was going to run with the football and try to pick up a first down running with the football. He had tons of open field in front of him. And it surprised me when he put the ball in the air. I thought he was going to keep it. But he got it right to Anthony Miller, and Tim Watson for a long, long time is going to have visions of that football going right between his hands.
And going with extra adrenaline, sends it 5 yards deep, and Witherspoon is going to come out with it. And he's tackled at the 16. Darren Woodson. And 2 weeks in a row, amazing endings on Monday Night Football. I have never in my life seen a coach so stricken as Joe Bugle was last week in Oakland at the end of the game, nor have I ever seen a coach so ecstatic as Barry Switzer just was as we saw that replay following the catch.
And this one is not over. But Anthony Miller, Barry Switzer told us last night, we need him back desperately. What an understatement.
First down from the 16. They have 2 timeouts remaining. And Shante Carver comes across the line.
Well, Mayberry at left tackle is
been doing it all night.
Wiggling and wobbling and all sorts of movement over there in his stance.
This won't help Philadelphia. Again, a difficult throw by Aikman. With this ball deflected by Watson, great concentration by Miller.
But right between Watson's hands. When you look at that over and over, you keep expecting on one of these replays, Watson's going to intercept it.
First and 15. That's Philadelphia's 13th penalty of the night. Detmer guns it to the 35. Caught by Freddie Solomon, the hero last week. He caught the winning touchdown pass against Green Bay. Philly wants to conserve its timeouts. Detmer says, I'm going to spike the ball here to stop the clock. And he does with 28 ticks left.
Bonio's record, his best kick is 52 yards, and that's the kind of range they're going to have to get into.
How ironic, if it comes to this, that we could see Chris Boniol in Texas Stadium line up a field goal in an attempt to beat the Cowboys. I guess in this era of free agency, we should get used to it.
From the 37. Detmer guns it too high and incomplete, intended for Michael Timpson. Pryor back in the game. Irving was shaken. He was covered that time by Kevin Smith.
Well, Ty had to step way up in the pocket. Shante Carver with the pressure from the outside. Timpson was open. Detmer just couldn't get him the ball.
Detmer knew he was in trouble and about to be sacked. He just fired it a little too high and a little too high.
From the 37 on third down. Fired to the 50, juggled, caught. Timpson makes the catch at the 50. Timeout Eagles. 16 seconds.
Well, and the key here, the key is that the Eagles still have 1 timeout left. So they can work the middle of the football field. They're not restricted to throwing to the sidelines. They can use any part of the field they want because they can stop the clock to get Boniol on the field.
Boniol's career-long 52 yards. So to kick a 52-yarder, you have to get to the 35-yard line. They're at the 50. That 52-yarder for Boniol was 1 year ago today as a Cowboy against the Colts.
Well, what they call is going to be dictated by what they have picked up, what the Cowboys use in given situations. This one, and ideally you would like to throw it into the middle of the field and get a run and then kill the clock.
From the 50, it's a 4-man rush. Detmer, he may have been across the line of scrimmage. It's caught at the 30-yard line. It's taken there by last week's hero Solomon, who takes it to the 5-yard line, and they'll take a timeout as the clock ticks down to 1 second.
And there's no flag. No flag anywhere on the football field.
Detmer was very close to going across the line of scrimmage.
What an emotional yo-yo these coaches
Take a look
have
at
been
this.
on.
We're sitting right on the 50.
It was so close.
There's your line of scrimmage.
Just short of the 50.
He's going to be close.
On the Eagles side of it. Look at that. He's across. And the Eagles can say, well, so what? Mamula tipped it, and it shouldn't have been a pass interference call, and that's why Dallas was able to score.
Again, there's a good look. The ball just short of the 50. Oh, the foot and the ball both across the 50.
Yep. And the crowd's looking at that also.
And he's inside the logo.
Yep.
It's the star. The official was starstruck.
Right. Both I'll disregard that. Both the foot and the football were across the line of scrimmage when he delivered it.
22-yard attempt for Chris Bonio. Tommy Hutton to hold it, to win the game for the Eagles. And Hutton loses the football.
You believe this?
And Dion will tell you it's divine intervention, and nobody's going to argue with him.
And this game is over.
Unbelievable.
Eagles players are throwing their helmets. They're lying all over the field.
That was impossible. Hutton juggled it, got it down. Bonio was out of sync. And then Hutton loses the ball, and that's the end of the game.
He had plenty of time.
Can you believe that?
Nope.
Bizarre.
Bonio still had time. There was no Cowboy rush whatsoever. If Bonio could have somehow reset himself and just taken a little punch at it, he might have been able to get it up there.
Barry.
I am a lucky man. Repeat that 10 times, Barry. I am a lucky man.
I mean, where do you begin to write the story of this game? Where do you start? That is one of the, that's as improbable a win as we've seen on this package in God knows how long.
How about I've been here 27 years.
You know something, though?
Like this.
If you're a Dallas fan, you can say you deserve that because Detmer was across the line of scrimmage when he let go that pass.
Jacksonville next week. Until then, Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, Dan Dierdorf, Lynn Swan, good night from Irving, Texas.